What's going on? You're listening to the You Want It, You Got It podcast. I am Russ Attitude. Today we are sitting down talking with Tim Jensen. How you doing today, Tim?
Pretty good, man. How's it going?
Going pretty good, man. Pretty good. So what are you up to these days?
Man. Working my ass off at all times. Taking care of the kid. Working on some projects coming up. Man. Trying to find time to just get some peace. Yeah. You know, there's always a lot going on.
Yeah, well, that's good. You're staying busy at least, you know.
Yeah.
If you ain't staying busy, you ain't making money, right?
Man.
So, Tim, we're going to start off here. We'll just get to know you a little bit. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Whittier, California.
Okay, so like around the LA area?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of hardcore bands that come out of that area. So.
Yeah, it was always like something that, you know, people that I was kind of hanging around with, you know, were into, but it was just never really my scene.
Yeah. Growing up, did you listen to music and all? What kind of music were you into?
Well, I had to hide it all, you know, because like
from your friends or your parents?
No, from my mom.
Okay.
So this is gonna super date me, but like one time I brought home, I went and bought my first CD, and it was 311. And she was reading the liner notes in 311.
Okay.
And she was reading the lyrics specifically to Down. And I remember this. Like I was probably 11 or so. And she made it about a paragraph in. And then I had to take the CD back. And she got me Fleetwood Mac's Greatest Hits to replace it. And I was like, this sucks. But yeah, no, then luckily I have a brother that's 12 years older than me. And he kind of exposed me to like better music, you know, okay. But I just kind of had to be smart about it. So he used to make me these little like mixtapes and shit, and he'd send them to me. But that was like Clutch and Melvins and Sleep and, you know, just stoner metal and kind of hearing that side of it. And then I've always been really into hip hop. So
yeah, I mean, you can't be from the West Coast and not like hip hop,
right?
You know, I met you. We just talked here. I guess I met you probably about. I think we say 14 or 15 years ago.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah, I remember I met you at the tap room one night and through friends, and known you ever since. When I first met you, you were a apprentice, or were you a desk guy at the tattoo shop across the street? So
at that point, it would have been the first couple years in tattooing for me were really like start and stop, you know. So I got into it as a desk guy, but that was, you know, before that. And then did the first part of an apprenticeship, but, you know, back in those days, especially like, you know, where I was at, their program wasn't as organized. And so like, for me personally, I definitely did not have a good enough head on my shoulders at that age to really understand what I was getting myself into and, you know, do a good job.
Gotcha,
so,
yeah.
I think at that point, if it was around then, that I would have been just starting to tattoo.
Okay.
Probably towards the end of my apprenticeship, technically, but you know, the end of my apprenticeship was pretty much me sucking terribly at tattoos and getting thrown, you know, in deep water and just trying to swim. So I should have still been an apprentice at that stage.
Who were you apprenticing under?
So originally I apprenticed under Andy Casali, and that he's the one that got me into the industry anyway. So,
gotcha. Okay.
So he's a pretty good friend of mine. And then after he died, it was kind of like I was already toward the end and tattooing actively at that point. And, you know, so technically Andy, but you apprentice under whoever's around you. There. Yeah.
The only person I think I remember besides Andy is Rolly. So is that his shop now?
I'm not sure. I know I know at some point I think he owned it, but he may still. I have no idea, but I know he's still down there.
Yeah, it's the only person I remember. Just, you know, but during that time too, there wasn't really a whole lot of tattoo shops in town, and I think
right, especially on that side of town.
Yeah, I mean, tattoo techniques had been there forever.
Yeah, they got grandfathered in.
Yeah,
like, and they had to fight for that spot too. You know, but the previous owner of that place and a couple other places in town, he was here tattooing way early. Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, way before I was even like, I think I was still in high school or junior high at that point. Yeah. So
when you were in school, was that something you wanted to do, or were you just?
No, hell no. I didn't start drawing until I became an apprentice.
See, I had interviewed somebody recent, or in my earlier episodes, and he said the same thing. I didn't know he drew it, and he's like, I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you don't have to, but it's it could help. But I was like, I thought it's like, wow, you don't have to know how to draw.
Yeah, no, it could help definitely. But the thing is, drawing the way that most people would draw, in a sketchbook, especially when they're in high school and stuff like that, and then drawing for tattooing is so different. Like it almost helped me out having no foundation in visual art at all, and then coming at it with learning it specifically for tattoos and then branching out from there. It definitely saved me some time. That's not to say that going to art school wouldn't be great for somebody that wanted a tattoo, but you're gonna get very you're gonna learn a lot more in art school than will translate to tattooing, and then so it's a very specific way you have to look at the image that you're creating. So it was really hard in the beginning, and I drew rows over and over and over, and it was garbage, and just trying to figure it out and trying to crack the code, but it just day after day after day just builds up.
What did you first learn how to tattoo on? Did you have to practice on a fruit or something?
Yeah, grapefruit.
Okay.
We used honeydew at times, depending on if they didn't have any grapefruit. Oranges. They didn't have the fake skin or the limbs that you can buy now, but those things are crazy expensive. So those
bananas.
That's better for an actual artist, not a poor apprentice to be.
So you were apprenticing there for how many years?
Technically my apprenticeship is only a year, but it was spread in gaps. Okay. So I was I apprenticed for a little while, and then took some time off, and I lived in Arizona. At that point, it's funny, my life now is so structured and organized because it has to be, but back then I was just a pirate, so I didn't have a kid yet and stuff. So it was definitely I didn't know if it was something that was for me yet, or I hadn't found my groove. And then when I did, it was just kind of oh, okay, that's what it is.
I guess the question I should have asked before we got into that part, but what made you want to become a tattoo artist?
So when I first, so I went and got a tattoo. I got my first tattoo from Andy at Tattoo Technique, and spent $400 on a wow, I've never actually said this out loud. It's a total ripoff of Maynard James Keenan, or his tattoo on his back that I got, and it went up my spine. And so he basically ripped that design and did one on me. And then that was my first tattoo. And then it was maybe 6 months later or so that I wanted to get another one. And I wanted to get this Gustave Doré charcoal scene of the Gates of Hell. And I wanted to get it as a 3/4 sleeve. And when I went and showed him, he was like, sure, yeah, we could do that, which is hilarious because Gustave Doré's charcoal pieces were 12, 10 feet wide. They're huge, but thinking that I could pack all that into a sleeve, clearly I had no idea what I was talking about at that point. But yeah, no, I was like, this is what I want. And he said, cool, it's going to be, this much an hour and probably this many hours and stuff. And of course, I'm a poor college kid at that point, sure. So I'd kind of hung out with him a little bit, when I was downtown, just kind of walking around and stuff. And he was like, well, and back then, I was a super extroverted person. And then it wasn't until later that I became more of an introvert, but back then I was Mr. Sales Guy, and he was like, well, shit, if you want to work the desk for a month, I'll do a session on you. And then, work the desk for another month and whatever. And then that turned into a full-time desk position, and kind of how I got into it.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but then as far as actually apprenticing, when I was there working the desk, I remember looking at the tattooing that Andy would do, and then thinking because Andy was this pure sketch artist from New York, and that's the way his brain worked, and just pure artist. And so I'd watch him and I would think how is that even possible? What kind of magic trick is that? And I was a musician up to that, when I was younger, before I got into that position. And so I started over time noticing little similarities between the way that music works and the way that visual art works. And it's really just like sound frequency and light frequency, and they both kind of work the same way.
Okay.
So once I kind of discovered that corollary, it got super interesting, and I like puzzles and shit. So I was like, whoa, I want to keep kind of digging on that. And then, you discover something and you go, oh shit, I'm onto something. Yeah. And, so I just kind of got obsessed with it.
You said you were a musician. You were a drummer, is that correct?
Yeah, primarily, yeah. Started playing drums when I was like 12, but I can play most things with strings. I don't know, like music always kind of was my thing, so that's where the focus was for the years leading up to that. But then, it kind of became visual art after that.
Do you just play drums for the fun of it, or, instruments for the fun, or?
Yeah, I mean,
you weren't like into bands, or you weren't like,
I played with different bands when I was in high school and shit like that, but like nothing serious,
That, I've mentioned this before on my podcast. I always wish that I would have been in a band when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Because, that was the cool thing to do, But when I didn't start playing music till I was almost 30, and it's just like, man, I could have been this kid playing music in a band in high school, and I never did. And I didn't know anybody that was even in music bands back then either,
right.
But, there was a couple bands around. But, so, you apprenticed there for a little bit. Did you end up getting a job did you become a full-time tattooist there, or did you go on somewhere else?
So the owner of Tattoo Technique had 2 other shops at the time, and so the way the pipeline worked is you would apprentice at Technique, and then you would go to one of the other shops, and just kind of wherever he needed you. But at that point, it was the way that those shops ran, the other 2 anyway, it was all walk-ins. Okay. So you could not schedule appointments. And not that I even tattooed at a level where I needed to schedule an appointment for a damn thing anyway, So I just needed to be doing little bangers and stuff and getting my feet wet. But yeah, no, I worked at his other shops here and there. And then I never actually tattooed at Technique as an artist. That was just my apprentice role, or working the desk. And then spent a little bit of time on the boulevard at the 2 other shops, but that's when I went to No Regrets.
What was the other tattoo parlors that he had on?
The Killer Rabbit, which is no longer open, and All American.
Okay. So, but All American now, he don't own that no more.
I have no idea.
Oh yeah. So you went to, after that you said you went to No Regrets.
Yep.
And have they only had the one location?
No, they had another location, but that was before I went there.
Okay.
But yeah, that College Street location, that's where I went when I started.
And how long were you there for?
Like 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I noticed, so when you started working there, I had started noticing your tattoo style, and for me, I was just like, wow. One, obviously I didn't know you drew, and that's now that I realize you don't have to know how to draw to do tattoos. I didn't know that you were into that kind of shit. I just I always just thought you were like a desk guy. But then when I started seeing your artwork that you started doing at No Regrets and stuff, and I was like, wow, this guy has a pretty cool, and I feel like a unique style here in town. What drew you to the style that you have currently?
So I would say, especially in that day, or in those days, like the style that people came to me for, it was probably like geometry and mandalas and stuff like that, which strictly like here's how style works frequently. Don't chase a style. It'll find you. Like you'll just stumble upon it one day. And that's something that I learned because I was always trying to like learn a style and be like, oh, this is my style and stuff like that, but not knowing what the foundation of someone's style actually is. And it kind of happens naturally. Yeah. So when I first started, again, I was trash. So my line work was fucking garbage. So I was like, all right, well, I don't have a ton of clients. What tattoos can I do where I can get like 100 lines out of one tattoo instead of, 20, or if I can get 500 instead of 100, which ones have the most line work? And then I started this is when mandalas were first really coming into the tattoo industry as like popular. And I was like, man, that's got a ton of line work. Like if I do one of those, shit, So I started drawing them with microns and then wanted to try it in tattoo form. And, so it came from just needing to practice and to try to stop sucking.
So, were you trying to make your line work better? You come upon this, and it helps your line work because you have no choice but to do these nice straight lines.
Right.
I mean, me personally, it looks really time consuming, real tedious. But I mean, how long were you doing that before you actually became good at that line work?
I mean, I don't know.
Was it like you drawing the roses over and over again? Were you drawing, smaller versions of those to?
Less like the rose, because the rose was I need to start with a blank piece of paper and be able to draw a rose from inside my brain, which when you're not used to thinking visually like that is way harder than you think it would be, especially when you're trying to draw like traditionally. But I don't know. I mean, it was kind of a gradual thing, to be honest. Like, I mean, my line work was okay, but then, 6 months later, it was way better. And then 6 months after that, it made that look like trash. And, so it was gradual. And it's just from like grinding it out like all the time, just continuously doing line work. Because still, like, even in COVID, when we had to tattoo way less there for a little while, when I got back into it full time, like I felt like I lost 5 years of tattooing ability just from like as far as the application, because I'm like, man, like lines are not going in like I'm used to, and shading's not going in, it's going in, but it's just weird.
Yeah.
And then like a week later I was back in the swing of it, but so it's just about doing it over and over and over again.
We'll talk about that. So COVID, I mean, what were the restrictions like? I mean, were you guys completely shut down for COVID, or I mean, were you supposed to be shut down for COVID?
Yes, we were. We were very much supposed to be.
Yeah, but you just had to do what you had to do to.
I mean, we made it. We survived.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people did. So, with your, before you got into this, the work you're doing now, when you say your trash stuff, I don't want to, but did you do any like huge pieces at that time?
At what point? Like.
The part of your tattooing when you weren't happy with what you were.
Oh, that's still the part. I'm still in that part.
I don't think anybody's ever satisfied with, right? Because you could always get better. Yes.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, I had done some bigger ones, but like when I say bigger, it'd be like a whole forearm. Okay, like I hadn't done a sleeve yet or anything like that. I have no business even touching that at that point. So, when I first got to No Regrets, I was very like I just wanted to move slow. And I wanted to just learn and, kind of soak up as much as I could. And the first tattoo I did there, it was a walk-in for Praying Hands. And that is an extremely difficult tattoo for a 2-year artist to do at a brand new shop. I had already wanted to work there for years, for at least a solid year, if not like most of 2 years before I went there. So
why was that?
Some of the artists there, I had seen their stuff, and they were just, because I was like kind of stuck in the system of taking walk-ins on the boulevard, which you can do clean work out there. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But just No Regrets was something a little bit different where, I don't know, they just seemed to be more nerdy about it. And that's kind of like me, it's what I was going for anyway. So I just wanted to get somewhere where I could sit around and just kind of nerd out and talk, technique with people and, just try to learn as much as possible. And so like Cavan Infante specifically, he was there, and he's in New York now, but he's still probably the single most talented artist I've ever worked with.
Cavan. Yeah. I've heard good things about him.
Yeah. And second is not even close to Cavan. Like he's so good that it's very, it's humbling, but it's really like happily frustrating, where you watch him do something, and like that was from when I first started at No Regrets. I would watch him do calligraphy with a brush pen, or and it's perfect, or like he just does a quick sketch of a multi-font sentence that we've all done a bunch, where somebody comes in, they're like, I want this phrase, and and he would draw that phrase in multiple fonts in a box. Like he was my intro into thinking of tattooing from a graphic design perspective. And that is where any kind of like design success that I've had since then, it all came, like it started with Cavan.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of his work, and it's really good stuff. You said that your first tattoo at No Regrets was Praying Hands. What was the first tattoo that you ever did?
It was a tribal pit bull head.
All right.
Super cool.
Was that on the boulevard?
No, that was actually at Technique.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I did that one, and then they were like, "All right, take your machines," because this was back in the day when we had like machines you had to tune and build yourself and stuff like that. So it's like take your machines and head to the Rabbit and see what you can do, and that was kind of the big moment, and yep, tribal pit bull head.
How many tribal tattoos have you done?
Man, I don't know, to be honest. Like I I probably haven't done one in 8-9 years.
Yeah.
Like it was everywhere for a while, but I haven't done one in a while.
So you were at Noah for 8 years, you said? Mm-hmm. What happened after that? Where did you move on to?
So after that, when I worked at Noah, when I first started there, it was just kind of like, a bunch of learning and stuff like that. So between the graphic design element that I learned from Kavan and then learning how to properly use black, those two things are like the foundation of everything that came after that. So learning from like Ricky and Matt Monroe. Matt works in Nashville now, or Ben, he was the owner. He still has the owner of Noah. Learning from those dudes how to use black properly. And then, so it was a constant learning process, but then before too long, Ben asked me to be the managing artist. So I kind of took over in that capacity. And
what was a managing artist?
Just like generally running the shop, just keeping everything like, I didn't do any of the like accounting or anything like that, but just kind of, dealing with the artists and, just keeping everything kind of organized and,
Gotcha. Yeah. So when you were at that point, were you doing just appointment only at that time or walk-ins or whatever?
I would do walk-ins at times, but like that's when I started to kind of book my schedule ahead of time. And then so that's a huge amount of growth happened at Noah. And working with Caleb there, and I would play drums and he'd play guitar in the back because it's a giant garage, and all the space in the back and stuff. So it was a long time spent there. And then, after, it was probably 5 years maybe of being the managing artist, I was just kind of like, okay, like just was ready for something different, So, I talked to the health department and tried to figure out like, well, what would it take to have a private studio? And like, what are the parameters of that? Like, because at that point I just knew how to have a multi-artist big building studio. Yeah. And when I talked to them, the guy that was the health inspector then, he was like, I actually don't know. I need to call Nashville and figure that out. We've never been asked this before. So they worked it out and they gave me a list of things I needed to do. And then one of my clients, Dr. Joe Linza, is a chiropractor in town. And I rented a booth in his doctor's office and was there for a while.
Really? Now this was after COVID, so this was within the last 5 years. So I mean, I guess it's the health department, chiropractor. I mean, I guess you got to clean in both places. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, and that's actually why I'm wearing scrubs right now, because when I worked at the doctor's office, he was like, well, you're more than welcome to come and, set up shop here and stuff. And he was like, maybe like try to wear some scrubs. And, so I was like, scrubs. So I went and I got these like super comfortable black scrubs and they're stretchy. And I wore them one time and I was like, this is how I tattoo now. I'm in my pajamas, like it's so comfortable. And so to this day, like I'm sitting in this chair in scrubs.
Lightweight.
Yeah, dude, it's the best. Like, and you get, I do color tattoos, but I would say like for every 19 black and gray tattoos, I do one color tattoo. So like if I get black on this, like all my jeans at home from before I started wearing scrubs are just covered in pigment, and come home and throw them in the washer and shit. But yeah.
So you tattooed there for a while. Now was just under you, Tim Jensen, or did you?
Yeah. So you basically, you license the room you're in as a tattoo shop. And so you have your owner operator license for the room. And then you have your artist license, as the artist that works in there. So the room gets licensed.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So how long were you there for?
I don't remember exactly how long I was there for, but like it was a good while. Like, yeah. And, just like to move around.
Yeah. Where'd you go after that?
At that point is when we started. Well, let's see. At that point, I went to Great Awakening for a little while and helped out there. And
Where's that at?
that it's under Emerald City CBD.
So on the was that on the bypass or behind the bowling alley? Well, it used to be.
No, it's right by Clarksville Guns and Archery.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
between that and helping open another shop, and then I just kind of moved around a lot during that time and learned a lot of lessons, because that's one thing, like at Noe Gratz, the system that we set up, like we being me and Ben, kind of specifically set up a very like structured way of things to go there, and everything's good, partly good and bad, but like overall it was very predictable. And then when you go out and you start breaking ground and doing new things and trying this and that, you definitely learn way quicker. And yeah, it's been a hell of a last couple of years. But
so where are you at now?
Now, okay, so the chiropractor that I worked with before, his wife is also a client of mine, and she has a salon and a med spa.
Okay.
And so in the medical spa wing, there's like 3 or 4 like little booth rooms and stuff like that. And so when I talked to her, she was like, "Hey, by the way, I have a booth for it." And I was like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Well, shit." So I was like, "Oh, I'll try it out," and it's been super chill. So it's awesome there.
Where's that located?
That is on Memorial.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually technically on Med Park Drive, but it's right off Memorial.
Yeah. I used to live over on that way. Well, that's cool. Now you're just now you're an appointment only guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I'm sure you got a lot of reoccurring clients.
Yeah, I do predominantly like larger pieces and stuff. I'll do a small tattoo if somebody wants me to, but usually the stuff that people come to me for it tends to be larger. So.
Do you do most of your work now on iPads and drivers? Yeah.
Yep. Between iPads and when I got super heavy into graphic design, using Adobe, Photoshop and Illustrator and stuff like that. So between the MacBook and the iPad, it's just so much faster. Do
you think that's changed the tattoo game?
Oh yeah. It's turned it on its head.
I've seen like some of the things I see come out of people that are on people from going to tattoo artists. I'm like, how the fuck is that even possible? But it's just like, wow.
And specifically for like the kind of work that I tend to do is like geometry. Like I used to draw mandalas on paper, and the way I would do it is I would mark like a circular graph paper into like say 16 different pieces or 16 different lines, and around the center, draw one section of it, and then fold the paper, trace it, fold the paper, trace it, and then by the time you made it to the other side, it wasn't uniform. It was close, but but now it's just on an iPad. They have programs that'll just
you draw it once and then
it will repeat it as many times as you want. And the drawing time for geometry, especially after years and years of practice, I'm quick at it, especially with an iPad.
How do, when, people come in and say they want that solid tattoo, how do they say, I want, how do you pick a design for it that you're not redoing that somebody else has done, or, that they haven't, you haven't already done? As
far as what, like geometry or?
Like for that, well, what you just said, what style was it again? The
mandalas?
Yes. Is there because obviously you can do so much stuff in there, but do you come up with the idea, or do they have like, hey, I want it to look kind of like this, or?
When it comes to mandalas and geometry, usually they just kind of put it in my hands as far as what to do. They might have some references of things that they liked, but it's not like they come in and they go, I want hexagons here, I want cubes here, and so especially with that style, I tend to just put it together myself. But and it's usually based on what I didn't do last time, so I'm not like repeating things. Although when you're dealing with geometric shapes, there's going to be a certain amount of like you're going to repeat. It's just going to happen. But if you use it differently and you kind of change things around, and especially with iPads, like I said, it's so fast to do it. You might as well just draw a new one.
I do you do like when you shade and stuff? Do you do pointillism or whatever it's called when you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's two different kinds of that I do where, you have the dot work where you put it in one at a time, and you can do one value or, fill an area with that. And then there's like directional pepper where you do it with a liner and you'd kind of like use the skin to create kind of a skipping motion with the needle. They're similar, but they're different, so it just depends on what you're using it for.
Now these techniques here, did you learn these on your own after a while?
Those two, yes.
Yeah.
I had to slowly, with putting them in one at a time, that's pretty self-explanatory, but the pepper shading with a liner that took me a long time to kind of get down, and a lot of it was the equipment as far as like the machine that I was using, because doing that is way easier with a rotary machine than it is with an electromagnetic machine.
Okay.
Because there's no give on a rotary, so when it goes down into the skin, you can't push it back up. Like it just goes as far as it's going to go, and then it comes back up. Whereas with the other ones with springs, there's a whole lot of give. So when you do that motion, it would just kind of bounce off the skin unless you had it tuned to do that. So once I started using rotaries, I kind of, figured it out from there.
What's the biggest piece you said you've done for that?
For
geometric?
Oh man, I've done a lot of sleeves. I've done leg sleeves. I've done like big back tattoos. I mean, I've done some pretty big stuff. I haven't done like a full front panel, like front of the body. I've never done something that large scale. That would be cool. But yeah, no, just mostly like sleeves, half sleeves. Usually half sleeves become sleeves, by the time they get done with that. And then,
I mean, I know that's your style. Do people come to you and you want have you do other stuff for them too, other styles?
Oh yeah. I find that like these days, especially, like I'm really grateful for all of the people that came to me for geometry, especially when I was at No Regrets, because that's like how I fed my kid. But I definitely would have weeks where every day I did a mandala. And which then was great, but there does reach a point where I'm like, man, like I want to do something different. Just if you do the same thing over and over again, you just want to try something else, So now I notice that while people still come to me for geometry, it's more about the look of the tattoo that they're coming to me for. It's everything that I do looks like I did it, so that's kind of what they're going for. I tattoo a lot of heavy black, so.
Yeah, it's, I think I know a lot of different tattoo artists. They all have some, a certain style, or you can definitely tell it's their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So, when you draw these, like the back people, you say, all these ideas are just your ideas, and then they look at it and they're like, all right, can we change this, obviously, and change it up?
Mm-hmm.
How long do you normally, those tattoos, are they normally one and done? Like you sit down for a little bit, like it's like say it for a sleeve, like a half sleeve. You do that in a full day?
No. I tend to layer things a lot. So you have the actual shapes on the inside of the tattoo that are either made with lines or dot work, or they're filled in, and then they're layered on top of each other. So say, like as an example, if I do 2 mandalas that are overlapping as a half sleeve, well, even if I was to do all of the shapes of the mandalas in one day, which would take all day, depending on how intricate I did the actual mandalas, when I need to shade a cast shadow from the top one onto the one that's underneath it, if I do it same day, I'm now shading on top of skin that I just did all this dot work in or pulled these lines on, and tattoos have a tendency to not heal nearly as well when you do it that way.
I understand,
yeah. You can do large-scale traditional pieces much easier in one go than doing like layered geometry, because there's things going on top of what you just did.
Yeah, that makes sense there. How many tattoos do you say, do you book a day?
Either one long session if someone's trying to sit for a while, or I'll do 2 like half-day sessions.
Pretty cool. So, do you go to conventions at all or do anything like that?
I used to. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's not my scene.
Yeah, I know Clarksville has some conventions every once in a while now. I think that's a new thing.
Yeah, I did Ink and Iron in Nashville, and the last year that they were here, I've done a couple other ones, but that's really valuable for when you're first starting out, or if that is something that you enjoy doing. But I'm just a kind of a bratty hermit. I just want to sit in my booth and listen to a podcast and have quiet, and that's the opposite of what a convention is. So no, not especially not these days. It's not really my thing.
Yeah. What was the last tattoo you had gotten?
My face.
Oh.
Yeah.
On the side there?
Yep. Yep. It's Odin's Raven. And yep, that's been probably two and a half years ago or so. Other than that, I don't think I maybe got one tiny. I got this little almond from Caleb Allman when he left Novigrads and he moved to Las Vegas. But as far as serious tattooing, I got everything that I have so long ago, and since I started really getting into tattooing, I just don't think about my own at all.
Who did your head?
Cameron.
Cameron did.
Yeah, Cameron McKnight.
Yeah. Obviously, do you still talk to all the people at No Regrets?
Well, they're like everybody kind of split off, so we all ended up going different directions, and I've seen a couple of the people from Novigrads here and there.
Is Ricky still there?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe Ricky's still there. I've seen Jason a couple times. Mm-hmm. He's come to say hi when we've been at work and stuff.
And
so.
He pierces, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Michelle, the other piercer, I've seen her and stuff. But no, I know Fred just opened up his own shop over. I think it's Dover Road area, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he just opened up a place, and it's one of those like with social media.
Yeah,
you can just send somebody a message, so we all keep tabs on each other, but everybody's super busy. So
yeah, I do notice that a lot of people start somewhere and then now they branch off, open up their own shop.
Right.
There's a lot of tattoo artists here in this town now. I remember
there are.
I remember when I first moved to Clarksville in '93. The only tattoo parlor that was here wasn't even in Clarksville. It was on the outside, and it was Dancing Dragon.
Right.
And then they moved into next to Subway, and then after that they moved down. There was one off of New Providence,
mm-hmm.
and then after a while, tattoo shops started popping up. I think more in the last 15 years, there's been a lot of tattoo shops.
The industry has always followed around military bases. So anytime you're around a military base, you're going to have a lot of tattoo shops. But I've definitely noticed a ton popping up.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I was probably maybe 16. We would sneak off base, and when I lived in Cali, and we'd go to this pool hall, and next to the pool hall was a tattoo shop.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd always sneak in there and look around, and everybody like, oh yeah, that's cool. And I was like, that's when it was like, obviously you said it's a military town, so you had a lot of military in there, but you had a lot of bikers and stuff in there too.
Right.
But I was always like, man, that's pretty cool. One day I'll have a tattoo, and then I actually don't have that many tattoos. I think I only have 5.
Good for you, man. Like if it were up to me, I'd have about 2 of my tattoos, and I would not have any of the other ones. I got tattooed before I knew what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The way that I look at tattooing and like from a design perspective now is so night and day different from before. So yeah, I would start fresh if I could, but that's the essence of tattoos.
Is there any tattoo artists out there in the world that you really like, dig their style and into?
Oh man, I'll spend the next hour dropping names. Like there's so many for so many different things, but it just depends on specifically what you're talking about, because it's like, whether you're talking like black work or you're talking traditional, or you're talking about, are we talking about from a design perspective, like who's the cleanest design guy, but I just like how the bar on everything got raised so fast, and everybody had to get better, you know.
Is there one person that you would like to get tattooed by?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Even trying to narrow that down. Probably Sneaky Mitch, honestly. Sneaky Mitch is a tattooer across the pond, and he is probably I would say top of the pyramid for neo-traditional style. And For me personally, anyway, he's ridiculous. His name is Mitchell Allendon, and yeah, his Instagram is Sneaky Mitch.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, he's so good, man.
Yeah. Do you personally do you make merch and stuff too for yourself?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done different like t-shirts. I've done some coloring books. We did a quarantine coloring book during COVID and shit. But it's one of those things that like I don't really like have a constant like, you know, new merch coming out or anything like that. Like if I have an idea, I'll make a shirt, you know, but I tend to concentrate on different side projects at this stage. But that's not to say that I wouldn't do that.
What kind of side projects are you into? Or you got going on?
So I decided I'm going to like probably retire from tattooing full time in about 5 years. So, I have a big project in the works that I'm getting organized on right now. Can't talk too much about that quite yet, but like that's gotten a lot of the focus recently. Again, I have the like, you know, done graphic design on the side since COVID. So like I've done branding for some businesses around town, redo their logo or, you know, do a branding campaign for them, or, you know, I designed the city market sign on Franklin, you know, so just side projects like that are fun. I just like doing different stuff with the, you know, with the skill set, you know, and it's more broad than tattooing, but tattooing will be my bread and butter for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you did like, you know, logos or, you know, stuff for people like that.
Yep, absolutely. I started studying graphic design really hard, and it really affected the way I tattoo.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Because so without getting too deep in the weeds, you know,
no, you're good.
There's two things that you're paying a tattoo artist for when you go get a tattoo. One is the obvious one of their ability to, you know, put this in your skin and have it like heal and look good long term. Like there's the canvas side of how we actually put it in, right? But the design side is so much bigger. Like when you do an apprenticeship, you're learning more about how to apply them. You are learning how to draw. That's definitely part of it. Don't get me wrong. And that's a very important part of it. But if learning how to apply tattoos to skin and that skill set is like a Great Lake, design is the fucking Pacific Ocean. Like it would be impossible to even scratch the surface during a year-long apprenticeship on design. And the design is what separates the top artists in tattooing from everybody else. And nobody at the top is famous for their clean line work. They have it, but it's the designs they draw and the things that the images they build, and that is all design. So studying that aspect of it and studying like just graphic designers that weren't even tattooers, you know, just, you know, like Paula Scher, who did the Citibank logo. She was on that Netflix design series or whatever. So I started looking up her stuff, just studying graphic design principles. And then when you translate that to tattooing, because tattooing has to be simple enough to live in human tissue, and, you know, so you can't get too crazy with the detail. Yeah. A lot of the simplicity of graphic design will help you in tattooing. Really? So yeah, kind of studying it from that standpoint and thinking of it in those terms. And
you just learn graphic design on your own? Yeah. I mean, honestly, you can just, if you want to figure out something, you just YouTube it and you can figure it out.
Yeah, between YouTube taught me how to use Photoshop. Like, or Illustrator, like anything, I would just go to do something, and if I'm like, I don't know how to do this, I'll just type it into YouTube and somebody will show you how to do it. Yeah. And for anything, as far as if you want to get deeper into it, Skillshare's awesome. You know, there's a bunch of resources that you can use. So,
so no school for you for that?
Not for that. No, I thought about it. But ultimately, like, I don't know. I'm like, why? You know, I'm not going to go work at a design firm where I have to show my degree, you know, so I'm just doing stuff on the side. So if I want to learn something, I'd rather learn what I need to know at the moment and keep going.
You know, you said in 5 years you want to retire from tattooing. I mean, is that a full retirement from tattooing, or is it? I mean, would you still be like, well, you know, I can do a month or so here? Or...
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a full retirement, because that would not stick. Yeah. So I just mean from full time tattooing, you know, at the pace that I'm at now, that I've been at. But I'll probably keep my license active for another 5 years after that, and just do select, you know, pieces that I want to do, you know, here and there. But as far as most of my work hours being spent in a booth, that's what that'll be the thing that I kind of retire from. And then when I am there, I'll do what I, want to do.
Yeah, I mean, you still have your clients too and stuff. But.
Yeah, I'm making sure I tell everybody, because I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that I won't do a tattoo after that, because I know that I will, but if you have that list of things you've been trying to get, just know 5 years is on the horizon. Like, might start thinking about when, and because I don't want to catch anybody off guard or in the middle of a project, and I wouldn't leave.
No, for sure,
I
yeah.
of course finish it.
Well, tomorrow I'm done.
I'm out, guys. Sorry. Yeah. No, I wouldn't do that.
Do you plan on, 5 years? Obviously, your child will be a grown, but do you plan on staying in Clarksville forever?
No, definitely not. Although, like, I don't hate it here.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'll definitely want to like travel around a little bit, even if I go live in Nashville for a little while, or I love Savannah, Georgia, so that'd be cool if I wanted to stay in the South. But I do want to go to Portugal and just kind of hang out there for a while and do some work. And I don't really have like a place that I'm like, I'm going to end up there. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to see what the next 5 years looks like. And then if I want to, go travel around for a little bit, I will. And if I want to stay in Nashville, or if I want to stay here for a little while, I don't know. I'm kind of open.
Would you travel around and do guest spots at any place?
Yeah, I would. If it was like, it depends on where it was, because guest spots are not as bad as conventions at all, like even close. But like, there is that sense of having to carry all your shit with you, which now, luckily these days, everything's a lot more compact with our equipment now. But I mean, I definitely would. I wouldn't want to go do guest spots and have to support the trip with that. It would need to be supplementary, so that I didn't feel like I would have to go out there and grind it and not spend any time in the place I'm actually visiting. So yeah, at that point I'd probably just be like, why didn't I just stay? Yeah. But yeah, if I could like go to Portugal for a month and work 2 weeks of it, sure.
Yeah.
Definitely do a guest spot.
Do you have people that come travel for you to see you?
Yeah. I have some out of state clients. I have a bunch of Nashville clients. Then I had, we're finished now, but I had a client coming from Maine, and I have
now these clients that are out of state. Mm-hmm. Did they see your stuff online, or were they from here, moved away, and then they come back, or? I've
had both.
Yeah.
Usually it's they were in the area and then they moved and they want to come back. Yeah. Which I super appreciate, because I always think about how many tattoo artists they flew over to get tattooed by me, so I'm super appreciative and fortunate to have clientele like that. But I've been looked up by people. One couple they were tattoo collectors, and they found me and Kavan at No Regrets, and they wanted us to do a collab. So they each, like, I don't even remember what state they were from, but they flew in and they came to the shop, and I did half of one and Kavan did half of the other one, and then we switched and finished them. And so that was their the way that they wanted to get another addition to their collection. So they were super cool people, but that happens on occasion, but usually it's somebody that I already have a relationship with, and or in Nashville, people find me on Instagram in Nashville. That happens all the time. But as far as like, if they're flying here, they probably already worked with me or they know me.
Yeah. Is there people out there that have strictly just had you tattoo them? Like nothing but like everything they have on them is from you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Is a handful of them. Most of the time though, they had one or two that I covered. Yeah. And then kind of took over the project after that. And so technically I would say that I didn't do every tattoo on those people, but you can't see the other ones. Yeah, so just kind of
I always think I think it's pretty cool how, when people get tattooed for cover-ups, it's like, man, sometimes, I mean, you can't, them covers, I'm sure it's a hard work to get those cover-ups. You got to think about what you're going to put there, how you're going to place it there. You got to use obviously some of the things they have. I mean, is it pretty hard?
It can be. It depends on how you go about it, because certain cover-ups, sure, you can create the world's hardest cover-up, but it has to do with what was there, and obviously what you're trying to put there. So if those, like if the second decision is the right decision, it's way less impacted by what you had to begin with. Now, don't get me wrong. If you have a solid black arm and you're trying to get something else, your options are limited. But because of the way that I tattoo naturally, even if it's not a cover up, I use a lot of heavy black and I use a lot of texturing. I love like feather texture and fur texture and stuff like that. Just making things look like you could feel it.
Yeah.
Those things are what make great cover-ups. So I never really set out to be a cover-up guy. I just wanted to tattoo really heavy tattoos. And fortunately, really heavy tattoos make great cover-ups. So I started becoming the cover-up guy. And then it was like, well, shit. Covering things with traditional is bold lines and then black shading to one color or black shading to gray. And there's not a lot of texture and there's not a lot of like places to hide things in a traditional tattoo compared to something that has a lot of texture into it. And so it's easier when you tattoo the way that I do to cover images with that kind of subject matter.
I mean, I'm sure this too would play too, like, but some tattoos have some pretty bad scarring too, right? Scar tissue, pretty.
Oh yeah.
You know, and obviously that makes it harder to tattoo because the skin, it's a lot tougher. Yeah.
Yeah, scar tissue takes pigment differently than regular skin does, and it bleeds more, and you know, so sometimes it's bad enough to where you can't put anything super focal in that spot because you just got to know like you're only going to keep about 75-85% of what you put in there because of how thick the scar tissue is. So what you do is you just like put the focal point like kind of next to it so that it draws the eye just to the left a little bit, and nobody really notices the scar anymore after that. So
is that because of the tattoo artist? Obviously, because
it could be.
Yeah, it
could be. And you know, between the client and the tattooer, usually they blame each other for the scar tissue. You know.
Not taking care of it?
More than likely, it depends on what it looks like, right? So if you have a tattoo and the line work is all super raised and scarred, sure, that could be the client where they didn't take care of the tattoo. Yes, that is possible. But usually what that ends up being from, in my experience, is, you know, putting in lines either too high to speed or, you know, where you went over it too many times and you created scar tissue as you went.
Yeah.
When you have a tattoo like in the center of the ditch of your arm, or you know, places that bend a lot, they heal so much worse than just, you know, like a place like 3 inches down on your forearm.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, you could go either way with it. It could be the client, it could have been the artist, but it's never like, you always hear people like, he went too deep, man, you know, and it's just like, well, did he though? Like that's definitely not what that's from, you know. And it's like, are you sure it wasn't the fact that you were in the lake, man? You know, like, so it could be multiple things. And I think that people just need to remember that at the end of the day, you are stabbing images into living human tissue, and it's kind of a magic trick anyway. So hard healing is going to happen.
Yeah.
I occasionally have hard healing on tattoos. It happens, you know, and with Tegaderm and like the second skin, you know, when that spread across the industry, that means you can go further with your session, you know, and it incubates the tattoo for the first 72 hours or so. And that, you know, will prevent a lot of the poor healing. But at the end of the day, man, we're literally stabbing it into you. So it's not a surprise that sometimes it goes south.
I mean, I'm not gonna. I got a fucking horrific, fucking scarred out shit on my leg that I got, and I was like 18, 19. I just was like, oh yeah, you want to tattoo me? And it was in this dude's basement,
right?
And it was horrible. And I'm like, fuck, this is the worst thing. Now I look at it, I'm like, yeah, this needs to get covered up someday.
Nope.
But it's like I said, you can feel the fuck out of it. It's pretty gnarly.
I have those too, and you know. I swear, like, even something that, if it was an artist's fault, as long as they're, like, taking the steps to not be negligent about their craft. I've done so many dog shit tattoos in the early stage of my career that I am no one to have an ego about it. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, it's just kind of part of, you know, you have to suck and then you don't one day.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, we were drunk, and he was like, all right, I'll tattoo. And I'm like,
well, that's a little different. Yeah. You mean tattooing drunk. Yeah.
And then like, so I got it done, you know, and then About a month later, my buddy got one done by him. But at this point, I didn't notice at the time that I got done. So white trash of me talking about this. I got it done in this fucking kitchen on the table, and then a month later realized he actually had a studio in his basement. But yeah, it's a shitty tattoo. But like you said, we all got shitty tattoos somewhere.
Yeah, man. I mean, it comes with the territory. Like if you're doing that years later, then it's probably time to upgrade. But yeah, we all have those stories.
I mean, I got people who are like, man, my buddy just gave me this tattoo, and I look at it, I'm like, oh. What's that supposed to be? He's like, oh, it's, I'm like, nah, that's not. I have people got like, football logos, and I'm like, that does not even look like the same football logo. You had mentioned, and some of the stuff we ain't got, if you don't want to talk about it, it's cool. What's your thoughts on the whole blackout tattoos? And I've seen some pretty cool shit.
Yeah, man. Okay, so again, I'm going to come at it from a graphic design standpoint. Here's how I think about things. So, can you make it look good? Yep. If it's real clean, and you can tell the ones that the angles where it ends on the wrist, or, like just how it's done, you can tell when a lot of thought went into it to make sure that it's not just you coloring it black and then, kind of having no rhyme or reason to the rest of it. And then the putting white over it thing, that is cool. And like, I understand that everybody, has their own taste and stuff. I will say that white pigment on top of healed black, I've done them before. Yeah, I've done these tattoos, and it does look really cool in a photo, and it'll last for a while. But like, as long as the clients are being told that this is not going to have the longevity of black, it's just not. So if you get it touched up once a year and you get the white lines redone, sure, then you can hold on to it. And certain people might be able to get it in there for 2 years or however long. But like, it's definitely not going to stay looking like that. And these days, those photos are heavily polarized photos. Okay. So, and for the record, I use polarized photos. Like it's very common. But if you do that and you go too far with it, you don't, kind of keep it tasteful. It gives a very inaccurate view of the way the tattoo looks in real life. So, it'll happen where you get brought tattoos and you're like, all right, first off, not only is this a cool tattoo, but this is a perfect polarized photo of a cool tattoo. Yeah. And it's, never, ever, ever in life for another minute of that tattoo's life going to look as good as it does in this photo ever. Because this is just got done. Yeah. Polarized photo, blurry background, hard focus, ran through Photoshop to level the background. Yeah. And it's great for a portfolio. Again, I definitely use a polarizing filter because it takes away all glare. But it's with blackout tattoos with white ink over top of them, I mean, I wouldn't do it, but that's just me personally, But like I said, if that's if you like the way the image looks and it's done cleanly, yes, it's dope. I think that I would rather have a blackout tattoo than a poorly done cover-up. So I would say, it just depends on what your options are and what kind of imagery you're into. But I'm definitely not one to say fuck that kind of tattooing. Sure. Even with stuff that doesn't hold up well, you'll find that, especially as a tattoo artist that uses a lot of heavy black, other tattoo artists that tattoo similar to me as far as that kind of contrast level, tend to pick on the ones that don't. And so, because they're like, there's no black in it. And yes, that is true. If you don't have a black structure to your tattoo, it just kind of lacks a skeleton and it will not last as long. That's just how skin works. Yes. But if the client knows that and they want something really soft and the artist, wants to do it, who fucking cares how much black you use, bro? No one cares. You're not a part of this discussion at all, and they're not wrong for doing it. It's just, as long as everybody's being honest about what they're getting, that's fine. Because everybody likes different things. I know that there are people that just do not like the way my tattoos look because they're so damn heavy. I have never done a Jesus face, ever. In over a decade of tattooing, a decade and a half, I have never done a Jesus face because if I was to do one, it's going to be metal Jesus. Like, it's going to be very heavy, like it's going to look like I did it. I don't do a whole lot of really soft black and gray.
You ever done the Lady Guadalupe?
If I did, it would have been a long time ago. Yeah.
I remember when that was like a popular tattoo for a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're cool, man.
No,
like,
no. I mean, I've always wanted to get one on my leg. I always wanted to get on one side of my leg. I wanted to get that, and on the other side of my leg, I wanted to get the crow from the cover of the Crow movie. He's like walking out of the black or the white light. Yeah, I wanted to get that. No, but back to the blackout tattoos. I guess that's what they're called, whatever. I mean, the only person back in the day that I ever knew had one was the bass player from Rage Against the Machine. Mm-hmm. He had the half, and then
and it's clean.
Yeah, and nowadays I'm just like I see a lot of artists, like as in musicians, that they get those done now. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, so it's all about the scope of your tattooing. Like, you have to consider when you're thinking of your design and you're approaching the design of the actual tattoo, you have to consider what's the range at which it's most readable. So you have tattoos that are super detailed. And when I started getting line work that I was a little bit confident with, I started making mandalas in geometry that was ridiculously intricate. But you have to be within 3 feet of that tattoo to see that detail. And when you back up from that, it becomes a blob.
That makes sense.
So I started trying to think of tattooing from more of a 5 to 10 feet, and so less small details, larger gaps in between the things so that you can have some breathing room and see it. It gives it some space to grow in the skin and stuff. And to me, that's a better range. But like if I was tattooing an NBA player, I would have this conversation with him, because when you watch an NBA game, you can't tell what anybody has unless it's Luka Doncic, because he's white. But if you're going to tattoo at that contrast level where people are seeing it from that far away, even with a lot of the white dudes, you can't tell what they have. It just looks like general tattooing, but when you think of that range of tattooing it, I want it to be 50 to 100 feet. Now, Rage Against the Machine guy's tattoo is like, like you can clearly see that from 50 feet away. And that's the range of that tattoo. So it just depends on how far you're trying to make out the detail of what you have, Yeah,
it's tattoos in general over the last, 15, 20 years have been really popular, back in the day there was like, the bad guys or what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, basically everyone that had tattoos back in the day, like, the bikers or, these guys. Now it's like, a mom with 3 kids who works in a bank and, but I mean, it's cool though. I mean, it is, I mean, now it's, and obviously tattoos are way more acceptable in society than they were before, because you get a tattoo on your face or, anywhere, what do you guys call it? Job stoppers? But,
yeah. I mean, that's a term that some people use. Yeah.
But,
I have a lot of clients that are, teachers and stuff. And so, I mean, sure, don't get your knuckles done if you're, if your career is, if it's not going to be conducive for the path that you're on. But, I don't have my throat done. I waited probably 12 years of tattooing before I tattooed my face. And, it's something that you have to think about, and not even necessarily because like you're worried about other people's opinions or anything like that. It's just like, do I think that if I meet somebody, they're not going to notice I have a face tattoo? Like, they're going to notice, and not everybody feels how you feel. And, so if you're in a sales position and you're selling to the general public, you're going to be less approachable than, if you didn't have a tattoo on your face.
I mean, down the road, obviously you may have thought, you thought about getting your throat done though? Are you in the idea of maybe getting it done? I used to think about, like eventually I want my throat done and stuff, but to be honest, man, like, no. Yeah. Like I very rarely sit and think about new tattoos I want to get. It's just not what I'm worried about right now. I'm sure eventually I'll get tattooed again, but I'm just busy with other stuff, and it'll happen when it happens, kind of fall in my lap. Is there a tattoo that you had gotten that you were like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, but then you did it and you're like, wow, that turned out better than I thought I was going to do.
Do you mean as far as the pain level, or as far
just
as
like
design?
the skill? Not, I mean the challenge of the design. You know, like there.
Oh, you mean like tattoos that I did?
Yeah.
Oh,
Was there something that you had?
shit. Yeah.
Like, and you're like, I don't know, but I can get out. You know, I want to give this a shot, and they're like, well, I want you to give this a shot, and then it turns out way cooler than you expected it to turn out.
So in the beginning, every walk-in I took was like I would have cold sweat, like sweaty palms, being like I'm next in line. Fuck, like Jesus Christ, But so I was afraid of every single tattoo that I did, but you just kind of make yourself do it. But and then later on, sure, like I think you should push yourself, but there's a there's like a responsible way to push yourself. So if I can see my way through 80% of the path but I put a spin on it that I haven't tried before, and that's the other 20%, I know that like even if I don't nail that at all, I vaguely know where I'm going to land, because I know, it's not like the whole thing's a fucking mystery. It's not like I went from doing only lettering to, okay, well, I'm going to try something insane, But I always tell people, if you're honest with your client, I've had plenty of people let me try shit. It's like, if you know that 80% of it is going to look great and you're going to try one thing, if that one thing pans out and you nail it, dope.
Yeah.
If it's kind of then they should not pay for that. They should definitely not pay your normal rate, because the reason they pay that is because you are at your skill level,
Yeah.
And if you're trying new things, as long as you're honest with people and you're not charging for things that didn't necessarily work out, that you had no business, charging, like you do know how to do it, It's just an ethics thing, but you'd be surprised, man. People love being a part of the learning process as you go. So if you're just like, can I try something? It's very rare that I've ever had somebody say no.
Is there a style that you will just stay away from, that you would like, I will not do that style?
Yeah. So not style, I guess, but I like soft black and gray without the black structure. I can do light shades of gray, sure, but like when people use words like dainty, or when soft, and when they say things like that, these are good indicators that they need to look at my work and just make sure. I won't do a tattoo if I think that I'm just not the guy for it. But in those cases, usually I will refer them to the guy.
I was about to ask you that. Would you refer them to somebody?
I've done it my whole career, where I'm just like, even if they didn't work at the shop that I was working at, I don't give a shit about any of that. If somebody's really good at something, like, you brought up Rolly before.
Yeah.
Rolly is a painter. Rolly approaches tattooing like a painter, and you can see it in the way he tattoos. His paintings are fucking phenomenal. And he builds these very realistic tattoos, like a painter would. Okay. And so if somebody really likes that style and wants a realistic Greek goddess pinup that's shrouded in a cloth or something like that, that's sure, I could do it. But if they're bringing me something that looks like Rolly does it, I'm going to be like, yep, check out Rolly, because he literally accidentally does what you want, so it makes as much sense as somebody going to another artist or like going to Rolly for geometry. Yeah. Can Rolly do geometry? Absolutely, he could, but does his brain work that way? Not or like not by default, so it's probably, like it's going to be more in my wheelhouse than his, the same way that the soft portrait, realism will be more in his wheelhouse,
I mean, have you tried, like, say, portraits before?
So I got to be honest, this is where I sound like a brat, but I'm all about challenges, and I'm all about trying things. And, there is a certain amount of responsibility to the trade where you need to be able to swim in the pool regardless of what people want.
Yeah.
So I have gotten into it a bit, but when it comes to someone coming in and say wanting a portrait of their grandfather, I would send every single one of those. When I was at No Regrets, I would send every one of those to Ricky or Fred. Ricky loves that shit. He loves, like, you know, looking at the one and then recreating it over here and having it be exactly the same. And, you know, like that's in his skill set in a strong way, you know. But with me, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, but like, can I put a spin on it? You know, can we make this, can we make it a little more interesting, like change this up a little bit? And frequently when people get family members, they don't want to do that.
No, yeah.
But if they wanted, like I do realism all the time, but it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah.
I tend to do more realistic animals, but I've done some humans. It's just not, it's just not my focus. So you can tell it's not where I spent as many hours as the other, the other styles of tattooing.
Yeah. Because I would, you know, when people get this portraits, obviously it's a loved one, and it's, you want to do it right for them. You don't want to do grandma and it doesn't look like grandma.
Right. Exactly. And like, man, I tell you what, the nervous, like,
oh yeah,
oh my God, if I was doing somebody's kid, and you know, you'll have real serious stories.
Yeah.
Where people like lost a baby and shit. And you know, so they're coming in and this is like, they have assigned this tattoo as the memorial, and they are here for not only the tattoo, but they are here to process and heal. And then like imagining like biffing that tattoo. Oh my God, shoot me. Yeah. Like, man, that type of shit, no way. I just, it would be disrespectful for me to take on work like that when I'm not interested in doing it. Yeah. You know, the person that does it should really want to do it.
I think it is cool though that, like you said, you would put them to somebody else that can do it, because I mean,
absolutely,
yeah, especially if it's something meaningful like that, you know, like especially if they lost their child, like this is, you know, but yeah,
even if it's not though, like even if it has no meaning to it whatsoever, and it's just like, why not put them in the best chair? Like they could get it from me, and it, you know, they'd probably be okay with it, you know, or they go over here and they're thrilled, and you know, I can do another tattoo that's more in my, you know. It just makes sense to me. I've never been into the famine mentality when it comes to tattooing, and that is definitely taking, like, especially, you know, like within the last, you know, however many years, that's pretty rare when you get into shops or artist situations where they're pre-booking out. Really, that is more, you know, it's more likely to happen when it's a walk-in situation, you know, but even then, who fucking cares, man?
Yeah. Are you pretty good with characters and stuff, like like animated characters, like animation and stuff? Like,
depends on the animation style, but yeah, I mean, like I've done a bunch of them.
Yeah.
You know.
I know a lot of people that I see online. A lot of people like that Dragon Ball Z character.
Yeah, the way that style is drawn, like, don't get me wrong, you can do some dope tattoos with it. And Zach Wood at Argonaut does it really well. But again, it's just like, if I'm gonna do it, it's gonna look like I did it. So if you're specifically wanting it to look like it does in the show, you know, probably not the guy to do it, you know. But if you're like, I wonder what a heavy black and gray, like super graphic-y version of this character would look like, I'm your man, you know. So it just depends on what you're going for.
Yeah. Let's see here. What did you tattoo today?
I did.
What'd you get done today?
Today I started a Nordic knotwork bear face that's going to be part of a 3/4 sleeve for a client's grandfather who is toward the end of things. And so he wanted to start the tattoo while his grandfather was still alive. And I tattooed him like a decade ago, and he randomly hit me up, and I had somebody rescheduled today, and I was like, well, do you want to jump the line and get in tomorrow? And he was like, yep. So, you know, we met up and got that first session in, and, you know, kind of talked about the project, and then, you know, booked the rest of them. But yeah, just typical day.
Here's a question I got. So obviously you're tattooed.
Mm-hmm.
When your child wants to get a tattoo, would you want to be the person to tattoo her first?
It depends on what she wants.
Okay.
It would have to be a hell of a tattoo out of my toolbox for anybody else to care as much as I would about that tattoo from a design to the healing, you know? So would I probably be the best? Yes. But if she wanted something, especially if it was like she wanted a specific artist from wherever, you know, I would absolutely support that, you know. That's not to say that if she wanted something heavy black work that I wouldn't be like, really? You know, like I might get a little bit hurt, but like, of course I'd still be supportive about it, but that would be kind of a bummer. But no, when my stepdaughter turned 18, I did her first tattoo. And
what was it?
That was a memorial for her cat. And so it's like a cat head in a frame on her thigh. She went pretty big for her first one. And so she's going down the path that a lot of us go down, where she started like a handful of tattoos and she's finished none of them, you know. But that tends to be the way it goes when you have a tattooer in your family. And you're like, oh, I'll get to it eventually. You don't have to like squeeze it in.
Does she tattoo at all, or interested in tattoo?
No, she thought about apprenticing for a little while. She's still figuring things out. I always think that like, if you're gonna do this right, can you do it at 18, 19? You can, but it's going to cost you so many memories and so much time. You know, and is that a good move? For some people, sure, you know, and for others, no. And I think that, like, for me, I definitely needed to grow a bit, and before I could really even understand what I was looking at as far as the commitment and as far as like how deep it was going to go. Because I didn't even, that's the thing, before like 3 years ago till maybe a year ago, so much learning in that little 2-year gap that I, even from 3 years ago until a year ago, I look at the industry and my place in it and the way that I tattoo and everything about this business so differently, and it evolves so quickly, you know, at different times of your career, that it's like, man, don't start that until you are like, I'm missing something and this seems to be it. If you have to convince yourself to do it, or if it's just like, well, yeah, I mean, I guess I can, but blah, 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 you know, like, especially when you have somebody like, because the standard way to get an apprenticeship is you know, go and you find somebody who has a license and you convince them why they should train you to be their competition. And usually that entails like you working for them afterward, but even still, nothing says that you stay with them forever. So there's a whole lot of cleaning involved. There's a whole lot of like, you have to be an asset immediately in the shop when you're going to be an apprentice. And so I don't know. It's so much responsibility and it's so hard that you better love it and you better really be obsessed with it. You know, otherwise you're going to waste a bunch of time. And I definitely wasted a ton of time, and then I fell in love with it.
You know, you're obviously, like you say, you're tattooing now. You obviously did not see yourself as a tattoo artist at this part of your life before you started. What were you wanting to do in life?
I've had a bunch of different things that I wanted to do. I was pretty obsessed with, like, you know, ocean and animals and stuff like that. I love sharks and marine biology, and I toyed with the idea of being a lawyer, just because, I don't know, I just found it interesting, and I'm super glad I did not do that. I don't know, I have a lot of interests, and I like learning. That's the thing, man. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's music, which is usually what it was at that stage, or anything else, I like getting into the nitty gritty of things, and, you know, that kind of the stuff that you wouldn't know unless you were in it. You find out that like next level of detail about stuff. Like, I love that shit. But honestly, I would say if I had any other career, it would be a chef. I fucking love cooking. Yeah,
that's what I thought so.
Love it.
It is a headache sometimes, but were you good in school?
In what way?
You get good grades?
When I wanted to.
Yeah.
Yep. And when I did not, I did not. Yeah. You know, so
did you go to school?
Did I go to school?
Yeah, did you skip school a
lot? No, I didn't skip school a lot. I skipped school a couple times maybe, but no. At that stage, life was really chaotic. So,
were you going to school in California at the time?
No, I moved here when I was 12. So, I went to, other than like the year in Arizona, when I was 15, I I went to school here. So
where'd you go to high school at?
Rossview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I went there. The first year was open, and graduated in 03. And yeah, I mean, like at that point, I was just kind of like trying to survive home, you know, and figure out what to do next after that. And man, I'm so glad I did not like. You know, I went to college for a little while and just kind of took different classes just because I was like, well, I might as well, you know, this is what you're supposed to do. And, you know, some of the classes were really awesome and I love learning, but like as far as the life decision, like direction choices, making them at that stage of my life, I was in no capacity to be making long-term smart decisions. I was a fucking idiot. So like, it's just, it's good that I waited.
What brought you to Clarksville?
Well, when my father moved from California to here, he moved to Houston County. Okay. So I went from California to Houston County, and then they moved here, and that's how I ended up at Rossview. Okay. But yeah, I moved out when I was like 17, and you know, just kind of like never, like once I left, I never turned back, and you know, just kind of figuring shit out as I go. I find that like the older I get, the more like, okay, I can maybe not relax about the things that I'm trying to do, but like I was so chaotic back then. Just, you know, you're young and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about at all. So, and unfortunately in my 20s, I thought I did. So between, you know, those years and then, you know, even semi recently, just kind of learning how to fail gracefully. You know, as gracefully as possible. But now it's almost like I have a craving for it. Like, man, I'm telling you, I used to worry about so much shit. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? And I thought if I obsessed about it, that if I think of every possible outcome, then I'll be able to see it coming. Yeah. And I spent a year and a half doing that, building a project. And it was the one thing I didn't think of. And that one thing happened to be me. And just me, just straight up failing in such an epic way that people around me thought that there was no way that wasn't intentional because it was so stupid of me. And so like learning how absolutely fallible you are as a human is such a valuable lesson because it just calms you down and you realize like, oh, I don't have to be frantic and trying to be what I perceive as perfect or anything close to it. You know, it's just like, just try to do good. That's it.
I mean, so what would you have told a younger you?
Shut the fuck up. That literally, shut up, stop talking. You know, like that's the thing, man. That's like, I mean, I'm on a podcast right now, so, you know, I'm supposed to talk, but like in my day to day, especially when I'm out in public and stuff, I'm pretty introverted. You know, I'm just quiet. And it's not because I don't want to be there, because I don't want to talk to people. I said way too much when I was younger, and a lot of it was really wrong. Yeah. And I just looked like a fucking idiot. And looking back, I'm thinking of some of the stuff that I used to wholeheartedly believe, either whether it was about myself or about people around me or business or anything like that. I was so sure that I had it figured out, and I was so epically wrong that I didn't even understand how wrong I could be yet. And then to where now I'm just like, there's a certain quiet in the storm when you just shut up and you listen and you take things in and you move slowly. Yeah. You know?
Talking about quiet, when you're tattooing, do you talk or do you just...
Depends.
Depends if they want to. Sometimes they just put their headphones in and they just chill out.
Yeah, man. Like sometimes they just put in the AirPods and they fucking go. I'm a fucking dork. So I tend to...
Book on tape?
I listen to podcasts, you know, like sometimes educational, sometimes not, you know, but I like learning. That's one of the cool things about tattooing is you can learn while you work. Yeah. You know, so you can retain new information from your computer while you are applying a tattoo. And, you know, because I don't need my ears to tattoo unless my client says something to me. So that's one of the cool parts about the job. And so sometimes I listen to music. If I'm going to talk to somebody, if I'm like, all right, we're about to have a conversation, you know, then I'll put on music because, you know, trying to talk over a podcast is kind of weird. But yeah, usually I just kind of put on something that I find interesting or that I think the client would be into, you know, like that's another thing. Like if I listen to say like this recent Alex Hermosi podcast that he did about the subtext business under your business. So when I have business owner to clients come in, I'm like, oh, I got to play this little 30-minute thing for you because it's super interesting, and, you know, and like we'll talk about it and stuff. But usually I would say 80% of the time I'm pretty quiet when I tattoo.
Yeah. I always know when you, back in the day when I go into tattoo parlors, you know, they always have, it would always be metal. You know?
I mean, it is that, you know, at times there is that place. I listen to so many different kinds of music.
Yeah, you've always had an eclectic taste.
Man, yeah, I don't do the genre thing. I think that like,
well, I'm gonna tell you this: before you pulled in, and if you would have came in here 5 minutes earlier, fucking sandstorm had just came on, and I was like, man, but
it's perfect.
You know, talking about music, you know, back in our I guess everything's younger days, but back in the day, we used to do some DJing, if you want to call that, in the up in a tap room, me and you and Attilio, and you know, that was a fun time, you know. Yeah,
it was fun in those ways, yes, 100%.
But I mean, I wasn't fucking good at it. I just fucking, you know, it's top 40 music, cool, what you want to hear, and then we throw some other shit inside, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it was the thing to do.
Did you ever DJ, or did you ever play drums behind somebody DJing one time?
I did it with Attilio at the OTT.
Yeah,
when the OTT was open.
Yeah, I remember that had happened. I just didn't know if it was there or down the street, like not the Pea Patch, whatever was next to the Pea Patch at that time. It might have even been the Pea Patch, but I thought it was
Twins.
That's what it was, Twins.
No, I didn't. Yeah. Well, no, I definitely DJ'd there, but I didn't play drums there.
Yeah.
I played drums on Franklin. Yeah. I also did it at one of the locations for the coup with Jesse, but. The one with Attilio was the first time I did that, and it's really fun. I learned a lesson on the second show that, you know, you have to have monitors, and you have to have, you know, like it's less easy depending on the venue. But I don't know, like when we were DJing, it was more like it was an easy way to get away from the crowd and be in the corner where people can't be right up on you. Yep. And, I have the aux cord. I can pick the songs. Like, okay, sign me. Sure, I'll do a set, you know. And then, you know, even back then, man, I just didn't. I don't know, I was just kind of shy and just didn't want to be in the crowd. And so, you know, wear the mask and just do a little thing. And
forgot about the mask.
Yeah, man.
I forgot
it's
about
so funny. You know, like thinking back, that's what I mean when I'm like, yep, young and dumb, no idea. But I mean, we had fun, but like of all the years to be young and dumb like that, those are them. Yeah. Can't do that now.
I feel like, and people say it's because I am older, but I tend to now, even though I'm doing this, I tend nowadays to stay to myself more. I don't really, you know, I don't really, when I go out, if I go out and watch my friends' bands play, I stay to myself. I don't really talk to anybody, you know, I'm more quiet and chill. And I don't know why that is, but I mean, I'm not mad about it though. I just,
for me, like I would say Andy dying, was kind of the turning point for me from going from I was super extroverted to super introverted, pretty much overnight. So
that changed a lot of people.
Yeah, dude, that rocked the whole downtown.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I remember. We all. I think it's kind of like 9/11. We all know where the fuck we were when we heard about that. Yep. You know.
I also remember calling Jenna and telling her. You know, and it's when his wife texted me, she said 911, and you know, and so then, you know, we found out what happened, and you know, it's. I think. Before you are exposed to certain details when it comes to suicide, when it does like pop into your life, the unexpected level, you know, like the jarring nature of it, I think just it gave me a pause that I don't think ever really went away, and it just got stronger as the years went by. And I know that like as an introvert, I tend to not really be like in the middle of, you know, all the conversation and, my my daughter's mother was that, she, when we were together, she would be the one to go, like, you go talk to everybody, you figure out who's who, you come back and let me know. And, we had a nice little system, but I was never that dude. And then, with, chemical help, you have some drinks or whatever else you're having. And back in those days, especially, it just, it was so much easier to carry on conversations that, just, now looking back, I'm just like, that was a nothing conversation. We're talking about absolutely nothing. Yeah, I sound like an hours, idiot. Yeah, but
I will say that too. Obviously, we've talked about this, but since I've gone, sober, I don't really talk to anybody anymore. Because it's like that was kind of like my liquid courage.
100%.
I don't talk to anybody at all. Like I would be that fucking guy that would be right next to you in your ear, the annoying guy,
Oh yeah.
And now I'm just like I said, when I go out now, I don't talk to anybody, but now I see the people come up to me and I'm just like, fuck, that was me.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Seeing the, cause that in theory, it's like through life, you can know things in theory all day. People can tell you things.
Oh yeah,
and that's about half the photo. It's like if it's a photo of a tree and you know it in theory, you see a blurry image of a tree and you're like, is that truly a tree? And you're like, yes, that's a tree. But then when you actually see that in practice and you feel it yourself, now the blur's gone and you can really see the details. So it's like, yeah, I knew that drunk people were like that. And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm probably like that, whatever. And then when you stop and you kind of look around from a different vantage point and you're like, oh my God, it was so much worse than I ever thought it was.
You always heard the stories that they tell you, oh man, you yesterday, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and all you would say was like, whatever, But like you said, now you see it and you're like, fuck, I was obviously in a band for, different bands for the last 20 years. And I had never played a sober show. And I'm like, wow, I wonder what it would be like to play a show sober.
To do a lot of things sober.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the last X amount of years of my life. Do I regret it? No, but yes, in a way, because I've ruined a lot of opportunities, ruined a lot of relationships with people. Now I'm trying to mend those things and fix try to fix them. And if they can't be fixed, well, I tried,
Right. Yeah. Again, like back to, the whole experience with Andy and shit.
Yeah.
It made me very, when he would drink, he was a noticeably completely different person. Everybody really liked Andy when he was sober. And then when he was drunk, he punched me in the balls when I was driving him to go get Taco Bell when I was an apprentice because he was drunk and he wanted me to take him to Midnight Tattoo when Midnight Tattoo was open so we could fight them. And this is a 5'8" fucking, Italian tiny dude, and I'd said no, and he's just like belligerently angry. And I remember at that point, I had not reached the stress level in my life that would create that level of anger when you mix alcohol with it. But that stress level came right after that. And so I don't know, I tend to, there's like a darkness, I guess, to, I'm always very cognizant of the way that I feel mentally. And I try to look over the horizon and go, we good? And then when I start feeling like I'm maybe not good, and I see some clouds, it's always drinking.
Yeah.
Is almost always drinking or something like that. If I stacked every bad memory and something that I wish I could wipe from my memory of my adult life, it wouldn't be any less than 98% of them that involved alcohol. It's just like a constant in every bad situation that I'm like, fuck. Every time I said something, I was just like, it's one thing when you're an extrovert and you say something you shouldn't, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I mean, I said 10,000 words and 3 of them were not good, I guess. Yeah. So sorry. But when you barely talk anyway, and the thing that you did say, you're like, fuck, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Just fucked up. And I just got so sick of it. And then one day I was just like, okay, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, I just so done, you know, in every way.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, it's every day's a new day, and we can fix our problems, you know.
Yep,
but
absolutely. Take a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
the thing is, I would rescue myself from it, where it would be like, oh, it's not the drinking. And, you know, like, other people, if they're alcoholic, that I'm not drinking mouthwash. I'm not drunk in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm clearly not an alcoholic. I have maybe 4 or 5 drinks, you know, or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but describe your life, you know. And it's like, and you're really not an alcoholic. Like, okay, like you don't know how to relax without booze. If I had done this podcast a year ago, there's no way I would not have had a drink beforehand.
If I would have done this podcast a year ago, we both would have had drinks.
Yeah, we would have had drinks beforehand.
Yeah,
it
would have been the most sloppiest,
disjointed. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I had heard a story. A buddy of mine told me one time he'd go to the gas station every morning, you know, be on his way to work, and there would be a woman that would be there right at 6 o'clock, waiting, or right before 6, waiting. With 2 40s in her hand, because her husband would not get out of bed until he had a drink.
Man,
and he would, you know, she would have to wait until they opened, and she would be there every morning with 2 40s.
And the fact that I was not that meant that I wasn't an alcoholic when I was drinking, which was not correct. Mm-hmm. You know, because there's degrees. You know, there's levels, and sure, are there people worse than you? Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you're not still like.
Yeah, we all have we all handle it different. We all have it differently, you know.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, you're not drinking mouthwash, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and I know people that had done that, you know. It's like, fuck, you know, you don't even get that messed up out the mouthwash. But also for you, you know, as a tattoo artist, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of tattoo artists out there, and they all, you know, that drink night from after work, and but I'm sure you have such a clearer mind now, and to do tattooing, you know, and especially with how you, I mean, all tattoos obviously, but with what you're doing, you couldn't do a great tattoo hung the fuck over, you know.
No, I mean, I could do the tattoo, but the process is so much harder.
Oh yeah.
And mornings fucking sucked, you know, and it was, I don't know, like now if I need to get up early, like I had a 9 o'clock appointment this morning, and doing that, and I did it on light sleep because I booked him last minute, and so I ended up kind of staying up and drawing a Nordic knotwork bear face.
Yeah.
But doing that on limited sleep and hungover, you know,
yeah.
and well, I wouldn't have drawn the bear because I would have been drinking, and then I would have fucking sucked. And then, you know, he got right in, but the idea of somebody waiting this long to get tattooed by me and saving up that money, and I show up and I'm fucking hungover, you fucking noob. Like, it's so unprofessional and so below the standard of what I think about my clientele. So, like, yeah, there would be, like, I've found little cheat codes, and looking back, I'm just like, yeah, alcoholism. But like, you know, if I was hungover, well, if you do 2 shots, you're not hungover anymore. And then it's like, am I drunk? No, I'm not. I'm just not hungover anymore. And it's because I just did 2 shots and it's not even 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then it's like, wow, you know, at some point, you just have to call a spade, you know?
I mean, yeah, like you said, I mean, if you wake up hungover and you start drinking again, you're good to go. And just like, I mean, you at that point, you're never not drunk. You're just
right, on some level. Yeah, correct. Yeah. And like, my kid, she like, I've always kind of romanticized drinking, you know, so like wine with dinner, or, you know, you have your pina colada on the beach, or you have your beers with the boys or whatever. You know, I liked that aspect of it, but my kid, she has never she doesn't like being around drunk people. Nobody likes being around drunk people, but she says to this day, she's like, I've never seen you drunk, like talking to me. She's never seen me drunk. And what she means by that is she's never seen me stumbling and throwing up.
Gotcha.
That is correct. I have never been that drunk around my daughter, ever. However, it is inaccurate to say that she has never seen me drunk, because I was just really good at riding that line where it wasn't noticeable. And, you know, like, so I definitely wasn't sober. I might not have been so trashed that I was throwing up, but
But in her eyes, that's what she thinks being drunk is
Correct.
throwing up and
because that's the most dramatic version of it,
yeah.
you know, and she's seen that a handful of times, and it usually tends to be from younger people who are still getting used to drinking, not people in their mid-30s who have made a small career out of it and, you know, learned that balance. So just hearing things like that from her, where I'm just like, you know what, like, what if, I don't know, like, I used to think like, all right, I'll tone it down, and then it would be like, okay, well, what is toning it down? What is every now and then? Because that's super relative. So, and this is how the brain works when it comes to addiction with that. Even if it's a light addiction, even if it's just like a coping addiction, your brain is going to find ways of why today's the day. Yeah. So every day getting off work, I would have to sit, and on the way home, I would think like, cause I pass the liquor store on the way home. So I'd be like, is today a drinking day? And then it's like, how many times have I drank this week? Or how long has it been? Or like how much productivity have I had? You know, like, what am I doing? And somehow it always seemed to make it into like, I can have a couple drinks today. Yeah. And, you know, so then on top, like even if when I tone it down, I'm still spending 15 to 20 minutes every day thinking about whether or not to drink. And it was just I got so fucking tired of it. I'm just like, okay, 5 years, I'm just going to take it out of my repertoire. Short of, you know, I talked to my daughter the other day and I said, I would like to know your opinion. And I said, you know, I'm doing the 5-year thing. The goal of the 5-year thing is to eliminate alcohol completely from my day-to-day, because I'm trying to work harder on certain goals. I'm trying to, you know, control the whole like dopamine fiend thing of just serving your whatever you want in the moment, you know, just teaching her the lessons behind it and why I'm doing it, you know. But then I was like, we're about to go to the beach for a week. And I'm like, I have 2 ways I feel about this, and I want your opinion. So I told her, on one hand, I'm like, having a pina colada or 2 at the beach or something like that while I'm sitting out there watching the sunrise or sunset. Yeah. That still checks every box that I'm trying to do with my 5-year thing. And I'm like, but on the other hand, I'm like, I feel like a bitch for even wanting the one. And I'm like, and I keep going back and forth. And so I was like, what do you think? Because she will tell me. Anybody else in my life will just support whatever, you know, will just support your decision. But if she thinks that's fucking dumb, she will tell me. But even she's like, no, I mean, if you want to, like, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't decided yet. It's one of those, like, if I even want it a lot, I'm not doing it. You know, like, it's got to be like I like, not even accidentally, but like happen to like, okay, I'll have one, whatever, you know, and then maybe that would be the one for the year. But like, I don't know. Half the time that idea annoys me, because now that I have felt what it feels like to be on the other side of that, and how many different opinions I had that I now have a nuanced view of, I'm not ever letting that go again. Yeah. So if it's even like a chance, you know, I'm not like the 12-stepper, and nothing but respect for the people that do that. Yeah, love that. Yeah, same. You know, like say Theo Von. Yeah. Think about Theo Von compared to Billy Strings. All right. Bluegrass artist. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, Billy Strings is all about weed, you know, smokes weed, you know, plenty. He doesn't have, you know, anybody. It's just him, and he's just rolling around playing awesome music, and he smokes a lot of weed, and he hasn't drank in like 8 years or something like that. And he, you know, when he's on the podcast with Theo, I watched that one, and, you know, whereas Theo will not touch anything, because he knows that if he does, he'll buy cocaine. And like, I've never quite understood that, but just because I don't understand it does not mean that it's not a real fucking thing. So like, super respect that side of it. I just kind of, I don't know. I never really had an issue with anything like weed or anything, you know? So,
are you, so right now you've been clean now, you said for,
well, it was kind of like, would tone it down. I'd take a couple weeks off, and it was like kind of like stuttering like that for about 6 months, and then I'd have like a week or 2 where it was like, damn, I you know, I drank a lot during this period of time. But no, I officially said fuck it on the last day of May. So it's not even a full month.
So are you no alcohol, no drugs?
Well, it depends on your definition of drugs.
Or are you a California sober guy?
I would be California sober. Yes, I'm pro marijuana, but the thing is, I am not a person that likes to be like super stoned all day.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't like that at all. And it's more of a, especially now that you can get like, you know, little Delta 8 edibles and shit like that from stores and shit.
Totally.
At the end of the day, it's a really good way to just kind of like help you sleep. I love CBD. CBD is awesome, you know. So I'm more into that. But yeah, I think the big difference between like what weed and frankly mushrooms, you know, I would quit weed before I swore off psilocybin. Not that I do it often, but sometimes you just need to have some psilocybin in your life. The difference between those two and every other drug for me, including alcohol, is all those other drugs and drinking and all that. It made me stop thinking about certain things, and it made me more likely to make a mistake. Whereas weed or psilocybin tends to make me think more about like my place in everything, and I'm more careful. I'm careful with other people. I'm careful with, you know, everything around me, because you just feel more connected to everything. And, you know, so I feel like I could smoke all the weed in the world and I won't be what I was on alcohol ever. It's just completely different thing, you know. Now, that's not to say that you can't use weed as a crutch, you know, and you should probably take a tea break every now and again. If you're smoking like hardcore every day and stuff, it can get in the way of things, but it gets in the way of things far less dramatically for most people than the other drugs do.
Yeah, for me, once I stopped drinking, I needed something still, just because I was like, so I started smoking again, and you know, there'd be some days, yes, I'll smoke a little more, but last 2 days I haven't actually physically smoked. I mean, I hit my little vape every once in a while, but I haven't smoked any bud in like the last and when I smoke bud, I'll smoke some bud, you know.
Right.
But
yeah, I went a while without smoking weed. I smoked weed like every day for, you know, in my early 20s, and life got really stressful, and I started getting so paranoid that every time I would smoke, I would be like, I cannot wait to not be high anymore. And then I realized that, like, especially now, it's so obvious when I look back. I'm like, that's what I was doing while drinking, bothering me when I'm high.
Yeah.
And, you know, or that's what, you know, doing this drug or that drug, which I was never like a drug addict or anything per se, but like I definitely, you know, we partied back in the day, you know, like we had those years. So I was making bad decisions, and then I would smoke weed during the day and think about them. And I'm like, man, this weed is making me bummed out. I'm like, no, it's the rest of it, you know, and I just didn't realize it at the time. So one time dabs had just come out, and right before I was going to work for an appointment, I was like, you know what I'll do? I'll take a little dab. I haven't really tried these yet. I'm going to try one. And buried the thing in the wax, and just where you're coughing for like minutes afterward, and you get that burn that just won't go away and stuff. And I was like, I'm fucked. And I literally had to go to work, and this person had waited to get tattooed by me, and I had to wait, you know, because it's like I'm so high, I cannot even function right now. And that feeling of irresponsibility and just how unprofessional that was in that moment. It was a cool client, you know, like, and it ended up being a funny story years later, because I recognized that that's not something to do.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But that combined with the paranoia that would come with it from everything else I was doing, I went years without smoking weed.
Yeah.
And
you know, same.
But then, you know, you kind of re-find it, and it finds you, and I don't know. It's just, it's set and setting like anything.
I will probably say that, and this is not an exaggeration at all, I probably went 20 years without smoking weed until last year.
Mm-hmm.
All right, enough about all that. So, are you happy where you're at right now?
I don't think happiness is ever really a priority.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, no, I don't. Happiness is like.
Or would you say you're in a good place?
Mentally, yeah. Like I'm I think I just constantly have so many things that I'm working toward that I'm always in the process of something, and I never get there, like, because I just add more things as I, if I make a goal, then I've made 3 other goals in the future that I'm still working on. So, in a lot of ways, yes. But then again, like, I've stopped thinking that happiness is a trait that you reach, like, or it's not like a moment where from that point on now you're happy or something like that. It's something that comes from doing what you feel called to do within your own life. If you feel like you are living the life that is the life you're meant to live, and you're doing good things to help people and stuff, and you're not making excuses, and you're not doing the shit that causes the anxiety in the middle of the night or whatever, like, sure, you can feel happy, but like, it just stopped being a priority to me. Because I went through like a 2-year phase where my kid's mom and I broke up, and like, the project that I had worked harder on than any other project in my entire career, both of those like crashed in the same time frame. And
so that would be a relationship.
What
was that? Was that?
Oh, was that me?
Yeah. No, were you saying that that things that crash? Are you saying would the crashing be like the relationship?
Yeah. Well, with me and her, yes. Yeah. And then, with the business that I was involved in, just everything that I thought that I was doing to get somewhere, like, I realized that it's not that it was a waste. It was just, I wasn't looking at the whole situation like I should have, whether it was my marriage or what I was doing professionally or anything like that. And I learned that, like, I don't know, it's made me a lot more forgiving. I'll say that, because I know that, lights.
Yeah. There's a storm out here. We'll still be okay.
Yeah. I know that when you can have the best intentions in the world, and you can still crash and burn, or more likely, you can lay incorrect groundwork for something and build on top of it, and it will crash later. And I think in certain ways, I noticed that a lot of people spend a lot of time on blaming other people for situations that they had a huge role in. And I know that for some reason, this time around, like, I learned really fast that, because I had the short time where I was like, spiraling, and I was just freaking out about everything just coming crashing down, because I went a long time of everything just going relatively well. Like, if I, put some effort into something, it tended to work out more than I thought it would. And, I kind of got this false Midas touch feeling about things, without, like, not anything like that. But I didn't spend a lot of time trying to hunt for the ways that I was going to fail. And then I went through that kind of 2-year experience, and I realized, like, I'm like, man, of all the things I would have ever predicted, all of this was both completely unexpected and yet completely predictable based on the bricks it was built on. Yeah. And the way that I was looking at things, just, man, like, so from the beginning with both situations, I just decided, instead of even paying attention to the fault of anybody else, I'm just going to look at what I did or didn't do to contribute to the situation and do what I can to learn and be better from that. And, whereas some people, I think, like, when they look at the fault of others, they find out why people screw them over. They say people surprise you, and that is true. But also, I have been that. I've been the guy that surprised other people with failing in ways that I never failed before in epic proportions. So as bad as it sucked, on the other side of that, so many things that I used to obsessively worry about when I was trying to sleep at night, I'm just like, well, if it happens, we'll handle it. You know, like I'm much more prepared to handle adversity now, and just kind of like take it in stride, you know, because really at the end of the day, if you're trying to do right and you're trying to do good, and if when you're wrong, you try to figure out why and, you know, adjust it moving forward, man, like, you know, that's really all you can do. You know, I don't know. I like the feeling of responding to failure with more acceptance rather than fighting it, because it's just like, oh, okay, you know, like, yeah, you can fall flat on your fucking face. Mid success, like everything working great, you can absolutely fall flat on your face. And then, you know, like with my daughter's mother, when we first split up, you know, obviously shit was not cool, but like now she's like one of my best friends and we're super chill. And man, I would not give that time back, because I'm like, God, like to end up where we are now, where, you know, it just, everything's cool. And, you know, it's just such a better place. It's just, man, it's so much better.
Are you in a relationship now?
I like with, do you mean like my friends with her?
Yeah,
like
you guys have a
my
good
ex, or
you guys have a good relationship now, right?
Oh we definitely do. She's got our daughter right now. They do. We're doing a week on, week off. You know, during the summer and stuff like that. And you know, like it's been great. I had her last year for school year, and so you know, whereas before, you know, she would do the dance mom stuff, and you know, so I did, which she still does, you know, because her son does dance too, and so I got to do ponytails and go to recitals and competitions and stuff, and you know, like you can learn how to do anything you care about and that you want to do. So I don't know, like it's just been a lot of evolution recently, and so that's the long road to your question of am I in a good place or happy? But like I don't know, it just depends on how you rate that. But I would say I am closer now than I probably have ever been realistically. So yeah, if I've ever been happy, it's right now. Cool. You know.
So you're a dance dad.
I am a dance dad, yes, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dad, about to be when we get back from the last nationals competition here in July. Wow. She's gonna do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because
help her dancing.
She's gonna take a year off of dancing at least. She wants to dance, but she's not sure that she wants to do it at the same studio because she wants to dance at the school that she's going to. But yeah, I told her that until then, you know, like we're going to do jiu-jitsu and she wants to do swimming, and, you know, she's a girl and I think it's really valuable for, everybody, but especially, young girls to get into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because like, you know, you can definitely protect yourself a lot better, with that kind of basic skill set. So we made a deal. I'm like, if you get your blue belt, which is it's the second one, you know, I'm like, if you get that will mean you have a really good foundation. And, you know, at that point, if you want to, you know, stop that and focus on something else, you can, but get this blue belt for all the tens of thousands of dollars I've paid in dance fees and thank you, deal.
Is she in high school now?
No, she's about to go into 8th grade.
Wow. Because I always forget, like when I was in school, I forget the ages of what you were when you were what grade. So I guess 16 would probably be a freshman then. Well,
I think it just depends on when you were when you were born throughout the year. She has a late birthday, so she ended up being like, you know, she's older for her grade because of when her birthday landed.
Yeah, mine was in November, so I was kind of like, but no. Now, for you personally, you have a physical relationship with that?
Yeah. And then, you know, got the whole family unit at the house with the dogs and chilling, and we're about to move actually, but yeah, I mean, it's cool, man. Next month is probably going to be the busiest month of my family's entire history, because we have nationals, we have Ava's birthday, and then we move. You know, all within the course of 30 days. So it's going to be a pretty wild month, but like we've known it was coming. So That's one thing I can definitely say about having the right people around you is like that will make or break how streamlined you can get through something, you know? So with the situation that I have at home now, it's much more like, everybody's on the same page,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know. It's just, everything just seems so much easier.
Hell yeah. That's what's up, man. It's like, especially too, because like, you know, there's a lot of people who have a child and they're not cool with the other partner, you know? And
yeah, but we both grew up in families like that.
Yeah.
For certain periods of, you know, of our childhood. And, you know, which it's a normal thing, you know, you throw a rock, you'll hit somebody that grew up in that environment. It's totally normal. It's very easy. When you have divorce, man, it's really hard, to be amicable, especially in the beginning. But, neither of us wanted that. And so when the initial emotions for both of us just kind of like, you know, went away and kind of just remembered like, oh, you know, realistically, my daughter's mother and I have technically never been as close as we are now.
Really?
That we're not together. Yeah, because like there's no expectation of the other one to be something that they are not. And they don't have to fill a role. I'm just her friend. And so if she needs to call me, she can. And if you know, she's living her life, more power to her. If I can help in any way, please let me know. Yeah. You know, and everybody gets along pretty well now. And we protect that, you know.
That's just awesome, man.
Because it's so much better for us and the kids, and like, why not? Why have war? It's so stupid, you know.
Yeah, and you know, you don't want your kids to see you guys like that, you know. And I think it's better for them too to know that you guys have a great relationship, a very good relationship, you know. So
and
that way she's not pulling like, you know, sides. Like she can talk to both of you guys, you know.
Yeah, and you know, we're just, when you have two parents of a child, there are cases where one parent can be the vast majority of what that child needs as a parent, and then the other one sucks. That is not my situation. So with my ex, like the things that she offers our kid are things that like I don't particularly offer. You know, we're just very different people when it comes to that. Yeah. You know, so and being too much like me or too much, you know, you can swing too hard in one area. So if you have the average of two strengths that are different, you know, you're going to create a more well-rounded child. And, you know, or, you know, as, you know, she meets people, or, you know, when I met someone, it's, if you're child-centric, you know, like maybe not in the way, like the whole house shouldn't like bow to the child, you know. It's a team, but like there's no way that, you know, if the person that I got with was not good with Ava, it would have been a hell no, you know.
Oh, totally. And yeah.
So you just have to think in family terms when you're a family, and, you know, it just kind of is what it is. Fortunately, both of us just kind of lucked out, and you know, we find people that, you know, like aren't like really bad, you know, like you find people that actually care kind of selflessly, because, you know, I don't know, it sounds simple, but it's really not. When you have somebody that is on their own and they're solo and they don't have a family to take care of, and then they just take on somebody else's, like, that's a lot.
So the person you're with now doesn't have any children?
No.
Okay. That's I have a friend of mine who has a daughter, and the girl that he's with, you know, he's been with her for some time now, but that's a key thing, because she takes the daughter, you know, she's good with the daughter, takes her out horseback ride, does stuff with her, and they get along. And that, like you said, that's something. Like if they didn't get along, then you know, it's, how can you be in a relationship with somebody that can't get along with your kid, or want to make the effort to get along with your child, you know?
Yeah, that would have lasted about 3 seconds.
Yeah,
you know, and because, you know, my kid, you know, she's amazing, and she is a handful in certain ways, you know, and
is she like her mother?
No, well, in certain ways, yes, but, you know, in the social side, 100%. Yeah. She's definitely an extrovert.
I was about to say
she's definitely an extrovert, 100%. She is absolutely her mother in that way. But there were stages of my life where I grew up super poor. And so I spent a lot of time like nothing to eat in the house type thing, you know, when I was living in Houston County. And, you know, my mother's house was more of a like super structured thing. She's very religious at the, you know, she of course still is, but like when I was a young kid, that was kind of like the biggest problem for me is like just the religious structure of the house. Okay. I can't handle it. Yeah. But so I went to live with my dad, and my dad was more of like chill, like let's have fun, like everything's chill, but there's also no food in the house, you know? And so I'm like, oh, okay, this is what this is like. And then spending years that way, I never really knew this term, but Kara, my ex, and the person I'm with now both give me shit about it because I have this like food insecurity, and like I will just fill the house with the most ridiculous food, and just so Ava never knows what that feels like. And then what that turned into is I have a spoiled ass kid who like is so used to being able to eat whatever she wants, and she wants filet mignon, and she wants, you know, this and that, and or you know, I just wanted my kid to not need anything, and you wanted definitely overcorrected. So you know, we're having to swing back a little bit, you know, but I'd rather have that than not provide enough, you know. So just trying to find a balance.
It's good to hear though that you guys have a good relationship. You know, you're you know, well, Kara, we already said her name. Yeah. And then you and your child have a great relationship too. That's cool, man. Because like, you know, and I'm glad you know, that's awesome to hear. We'll start winding down now a little bit. You know, but is there? Do you have any regrets?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to talk about them, you know.
I mean, like, it's not even that big of a deal, but like, I've never understood when people say they don't regret anything. I mean, I guess like more power to you, but like
you have to.
I would 100% take things out of you know, what I had, you know, things of my past. It's just that it is what it is. But I don't know. Like, do I have such a problem with it that I like have a problem functioning? No, because it landed me where I am now, and you know, the person that I am now is so different than even when you and I used to hang out and play music. Sure. So different, you know, just like I was a cocky douche. I was such a douche, and everything I was cocky about, none of it was real. And realizing that, and like, oh, the shit that I'm actually humble about that's actually my skill set, you know, like, oh, okay. And then realizing it was the complete opposite of what I thought. That's been awesome. So I wouldn't put any of it back. And the person that I'm with now is such a savage when it comes to that shit. Like, she holds me extremely accountable, and she's like, you know, she just does shit because it's hard, just because why not? You know, I was not used to that, especially in my own life, because I'm just like, no, I mean, I'm a brat and I want dopamine, and I worked really hard today, so I want a glass of wine, and I want to come home and I want to have this, and I want to watch whatever. And, you know, and realizing that there's something to be said about just doing hard shit for the sake of doing hard shit, and then everything else in your life seems so much easier, you know? And so, back to the thing of like, the split houses where Kara has her thing that she brings for our child. Kara has a much easier time making a situation fun. And I don't particularly even care about that most of the time. Yeah. I'm on a mission. And that shit is not awesome when you're, you know, a young kid and you're just like, yeah, but it's Sunday. I'm trying to have fun. Like, I have to snap myself out of that. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, where we are now is the best it's been to this point, and we're headed in the right direction. So it's looking up.
That's cool, man. That's cool. What's something that nobody knows about you?
Probably a lot. I don't talk very much. That's a strange one. What's something that nobody knows about me? God, there's so many things pop into my head. I'm like, I don't know. I barely talk when it comes to that kind of shit. I don't know. I have to think about that.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back to that.
Yeah.
So you said you're into hip hop.
Yes.
Who's your favorite MC?
Oh man. Okay, so are we talking about?
We're gonna go.
Are we talking about delivery? Are we talking about lyrically? Or are we talking about?
All right. I want to go lyrically.
Okay, lyrically, J. Cole.
All right. I back that answer.
Yeah.
To me, he still has that old school style. I feel.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. He's just pure talent, man.
You like Kendrick?
Yeah, I do. I feel like this like publicity stunt of a beef that took over everything is so like when you won the Pulitzer Prize for a fucking rap album, you don't beef with Drake.
No.
Like, so I'm like, why are you wasting your fucking time with this? But now, I don't know. I mean, he's doing big shit with it, so fuck it. I didn't like it, but like clearly the masses did, so more power to him.
Oh yeah, and then I heard that all those songs got deleted. They took them all down off of Spotify and streaming services out after like a couple weeks. But
I saw one of his is eligible for a Grammy, so that would be fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, I mean I do like Kendrick a lot. Yeah. Certain songs that he has are awesome, but I would take J. Cole over him.
Yeah, you like Killer Mike?
Yes, I do. Killer Mike is kind of his delivery is perfect. He's just such a force, and
do you feel to me
he's kind of a caricature, sometimes I don't know.
The other day I was listening to a song that he was featured on, and I had to double check and make sure it was him because he sounds like Big Boy. Like they have a similar style.
I can hear that.
They have a similar style. I mean, obviously Dungeon Family and shit,
right.
But they have such a similar flow, And I was like, wait a second, who the fuck is this? Okay, because honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of slept on Killer Mike for a while,
Did you discover him through Run the Jewels? Or
no, actually, I did not. And Run the Jewels, that's some good shit, But no, I did not, because honestly, I did not when Run the Jewels first came out, did not know that's who was in there. So. Do you like Run the Jewels?
Yeah, I like a lot of their songs.
They have a cat album.
I think when I was listening to a lot of Run the Jewels was like as COVID was kicking off, and it was very topical, and it was just a very Run the Jewels time with everything going on in the country. And so I kind of associated that sound past that with like times that were not peaceful. Yeah. And so I don't know, like it's like Rage Against the Machine type thing, Are they good? Fuck yeah, they're good. But like no one puts on Rage Against the Machine to like chill and fucking, I mean you might, but you know what I'm saying? It's not, it's aggressive, and they're definitely a lot of fuck you in that. I would say I discovered Killer Mike when he was in that song with Outkast that's in, it's in thirds, it's in the Waltz beat. Whole World.
Okay.
The Randy Moss line. Yeah. I remember that. I was probably like 21 at the time when that came out. But
he was Killer Mike. He was just by himself the whole time. He's never been in besides being in Dungeon Family. He wasn't in no group with anybody. He was just always like one of the boys.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure like every time I heard him, it was just him on his own. But yeah, Killer Mike's dope. Dope in his delivery. I just feel like sometimes. And I think people just get lost in their opinion and, in the value of their opinion. And sure, it is very valuable, just like anybody's is. But, there's certain times he'll say something and I'm like, really, man? Like, come on, like you're really reaching now. But yeah, I mean, as a rapper, he's super good.
Yeah. And, there's some of those people that you're like, are they good? You can't just say that they're good. You know that they're good. It's kind of like people ask me, for instance, and I don't mention this topic, but this person, it's like somebody always asks me who's my favorite artist. I never say Prince because it's just a given for me that you should already know
right.
that, what I'm saying?
Right.
Or like when people are like, what's your favorite movie? And someone says Star Wars. Well, I kind of knew that, but what else is your favorite movie type thing, But,
yeah. I don't know. Like with rap, there's like what is global, like globally like undeniably the names that you would say, and then there's like personal, and like I don't know, I tend to lean more towards I wouldn't even say underground because they're not, but like less I don't know, less broad. I think like J. Cole's pretty broad, and because he's just so goddamn good, but the best live show I've ever seen was Suicide Boys.
I was just about to ask you.
My God. Like, I didn't really like rap shows. I was like, man, like, because especially as a drummer, you know, I'm like, you know, and going from drumming and like live music, looking at things that way, and then going from that to like more of a trap EDM type thing that is specifically built for live shows.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, rap just is a person rapping on a backing track, you know, and I guess, you know, maybe Kanye do some really cool like stage show shit, which is true. But then I went to Grey Day last year, and that is the single best live performance I have ever seen. Shit, yeah. From the first, like from when they came on stage until the last song, it was like a bullet train. Like there was no lull. There was no, because I don't care who I go see. I will have 5 minutes of boredom. You know, it is what it is.
Was that at Bridgestone?
Yep.
Yeah, I know some people that are they coming back this year too?
Yeah. August, early August.
I have not, and I know what you're saying about the show. Like that show that from start to finish is nothing but hypeness, you know. And it's like 2 years ago they were at Marathon, and now they're fucking selling out Bridgestone. You know, I've tried. I can't get it yet. I can't get into it. And it might not be for me, but I do understand. I understand the hype behind them because I mean. But I said this the other day. Somebody looked down on me, but I'm gonna say it again. I feel like they're today's version of ICP.
Okay, I've heard people say that before.
Okay,
I totally get where you're coming from, but surface level. To me, you like Ghost Main is closer to that than Suicide Boys. Because it's just a little bit more theatrical with the dark and the, you know, like it seems a little bit cheesier. I
just think like because they're fan, to me it's like they're in the, I think, well no, they're bigger than ICP because ICP I don't think would have ever sold out Bridgestone.
No, probably not.
And and Suicide Boys have like they, you know, I mean they're not mainstream, but they're not mainstream, but they're huge, you know.
Yeah, I mean they're on the outskirts, the very outside of mainstream. And calling them underground is incorrect at this stage because they're so big, but they got their fan base. Yeah, they have a super strong fan base, and trust me, I'll be the first one to say the fan base of a band can like drastically impact like how people look at that band. And I say this as a Tool fan.
Yeah.
Sometimes Tool fans are insufferable, you know, and it's just like, shut up. I don't care. Yep. Yes. I realize he used the Fibonacci sequence. Yes. In the lyrics. Yeah. It's crazy, you know? But I don't give a fuck about the fans unless I'm at the live show, and then I still don't, you know, I don't care. It's what do I put on in the car, or what do I put on, you know, while I'm working or whatever. And there are plenty of Suicide Boys songs that I don't like. It's plenty I haven't heard and stuff like that. But I could name 20 fucking bangers, and you know, they continually keep coming out with new stuff. There's songs in their brand new album that just came out that are really, really good. So plus anybody that's that good live, I'm about it.
Yeah, tomorrow actually they're on the Theo podcast. That's what I'm gonna listen to tomorrow, with the one with Suicide Boys.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, because I skipped that one and went to and listened to the Theo and Ed Sheeran today. So that's
cool. Yeah. Another thing about Suicide Boys you might like is they are sober now.
I heard some of their stories from clips.
Yeah, and they talk a lot about that. And when you are those dudes, and you're just like, you have access to the fucking whatever you want, and you are just, you know, doing 100 Adderall during the day and then doing, you know, Roxy's at night to bring it back down over and over and over again. And then to get to a point where you still make great music without any of that. And they were both concerned about it and shit. It's really cool to watch, because I was like, for a long time when I was listening to them in the beginning, I was like, man, these dudes are going to die. Yeah. You know, and that happens. You know, luckily they saw their way out of it. Spark Master Tape also, I got to mention that if we're talking about rappers, that's one that a lot of people don't know about, but Spark Master Tape is the fucking shit.
Where's he from?
I don't even know who he is. He's always like, he's got a mask on, and there's a there's a theory that he is it's like last standing poet or something like that, some other rapper from YouTube or something. Anyways, this, if it's his alter ego, cool, because his alter ego makes fucking awesome music, and he's really, really, really good. So I don't know, I just like weird shit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I knew you were I knew you liked Tool, but is there any, what's another band that you're into?
In that genre, like in more of on the rock side, or
yeah.
So my favorite band, maybe not my favorite band. Okay, my favorite album of all time is the Legend album by Witchcraft, and Witchcraft is this fucking, they're Swedish, and it's just this metal band that does things like every album they come out with has a slightly different sound, and some of it's super heavy like doom metal, and some of it sounds like just completely not that, you know. It's just very 70s based, like just jam stoner shit. I like that. Like I said, I listen to so many different bands, for man. Sure. Like our music, when it comes to music, like I've been big on Billy Strings lately.
Yeah, I just got into him. He's pretty cool. I like that.
Man, he's got some tracks on there. I'm not really big into country music, and that's bluegrass, so it's
I would say that's more bluegrass, right?
Yeah. But like I was gonna say, like with Billy Strings, also there's that song Something in the Orange. I don't fucking care if you like country or not. That's a goddamn banger. That is such a good song, you know. So sometimes it doesn't matter what genre it is, but
do you have a guilty pleasure for music?
Oh, a lot of them. Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, it's like a guilty pleasure that I'm not guilty about at all.
Exactly. That's like me.
I'm just like, fuck you. I like
back,
it.
You know, back in the day, my guilty pleasure, I say, and then I'm like you just said, fuck it. But, you know, I listen to whatever the fuck I want. And this is going to sound, you know, but it was fucking Panic at the Disco.
Oh, man.
That first fucking record.
Yeah.
Me and Jesse both said that was our guilty. But you know what? It's not a guilty pleasure if you admit to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just depends. As long as you're not going into it expecting something it isn't. See, okay, like, man, I got into an actual family fight one time over music because this person in my family plays the bass in a band in California, and they're like, you know, the kind of music where it's like the divorced dad thing where there's a lot of, you know, like that type thing.
Dad rock.
And dad rock. But which cool, you know, he's a great bass player, you know, like do your thing, man. But he got all pissy one day and was talking about, and this was back when we were hanging out, so I was like in it, and he said some shit about where he's like, this EDM isn't real music, and I was like, the fuck do you mean? Like, what is real? What does the word real mean? Can you hear it? It sounds real to me. Like, do you mean it doesn't require an instrument? Do you mean that it's not acoustic? Like, it can, if it's made on computers and synths, and you put it out to people who like music that's made on computers and synths,
that's real music.
That's real music, man. Like, it's just not this other thing. And usually when people say I don't like, or when people say something's not good, they kind of mean I don't like it. Like, they confuse the two.
Yeah.
So like, I don't. Music doesn't have to be deep. It can be just catchy, you know, and that's okay, because it's not.
There's a lot of stuff that I don't like, and that's out there that is, say, catchy or really popular, and it's not my thing, but I get why people are into it.
Sure, yeah,
you know?
I can definitely hear it. I can hear it objectively. And then there's music that I'm like, I do not understand this. Ice Spice, I do not understand how this person is good.
Well, I don't understand what she says.
Yeah, like I just don't get it. I'm too old for that. But like, that's not. I'm not like the arbiter of what is good and not globally. I just can, you know, have my own opinion on it. So yeah, not so guilty. Bro, like, I put on Fall Out Boy if I'm in the mood for like just kind of nothing music, or, you know, if it's just kind of, I'm on just kind of a catchy, like, oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess because
so many, Blink-182 was like such a huge band for me in high school, and the nostalgia of that, I'll still listen to some of that music. And looking back, I'm like, my God, this is like such teenager shit, you know.
Oh yeah, dick and fart jokes the whole time too.
It really is, and you know, imagining them at their ages now,
still singing,
still talking about high school girls. I'm just like, man, you know, like, all right.
But you think about that though. Think about all those bands that are about that age now that were singing about that shit back then, that are still out there, still singing about that shit. You know,
right?
Yeah, I would say. I guess you are at the age for in high school where like bands like Fall Out Boy were new.
Yes. Yeah, I remember when the Sugar We're Going Down song came out.
I played a show one time. This young band. They were a bunch of high school kids. Covered that fucking song. Their parents were in the back just singing along, and I'm like, I wonder if their parents know what the song is actually about, you know? But they're just like, yeah, and their kids are up there singing it, you know? But,
right? Yeah, it's so crazy, man. Like, there's certain music that you listen to that is relatively timeless, you know, and then there's other types of music that it's very niche for like one very short amount of time. And, you know, I don't know. But I still listen to some of those songs in the right mood, you know, so it just depends. It totally depends on what the vibe of the day is.
Oh, yeah.
You know, what mood you're in and stuff. But
for like, I know I have some days I don't know what to fucking listen to. So I always go back to a certain part of my life. And I listen to shit from like, you know, the early 90s, you know, whether it be like, you know, Soundgarden or Hole or, you know, Peppers or Weezer, you know, but that's my go-to. Like, oh, I don't know what else to listen to. Go right back to what I know.
Right. You have like a default. That's probably like Tool for me. But
yeah. And how many times have you seen Tool?
Once. I've only seen them once.
Was it in Nashville?
Yes, it was.
Was it with Primus?
No. The show that I went to. Wait. Yes, it was. It was with Primus. Actually, yeah, because I remember walking in and they were playing Too Many Puppies. You're right. It was with Primus.
That's probably one of my favorite Primus songs.
Yeah, I saw them live then. I've seen Perfect Circle a few times. I just saw them with Primus and Pussifer.
Fuck you.
And that set was dope because what they did was they would play like 3 Primus songs, and then they'd play 3 Perfect Circle songs, and then they'd play 3 Pussifer songs, and they would switch out members, and Claypool would be in it was just cool, kind of a big hangout jam.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really awesome. And
kind of jealous.
Maynard's 60 now, so
that's why they did that, right? It was like his birthday tour or something.
Yep. Yeah. So that was cool. Anytime you can see those dudes, you know, play, they're just super talented people. But plus Danny Carey's probably not my favorite drummer, but I would say he's probably academically like the best rock drummer of that era.
Watching him play, he looks so like it's so effortless with him.
It's
just
so effortless.
And then I'm watching them fucking sticks in his hands, and I'm just like,
yeah, and the time signatures he's doing are not the same in each hand, and it's
plus not to mention his feet too. And
it's so ridiculously hard to keep count like that with 4 limbs and to just. But this is what I would encourage people who are not involved in art to understand. Playing it is incredibly hard. Writing it is the miracle.
Yeah.
So it's like, could I play a Tool song on drums? Yes. Am I anything close to even the ability to be able to clean his fucking drums for him? No, because there's a huge difference between being able to recreate something and writing it originally. And, you know, when you can create from nothing and it's that high level, like, man, you are a trailblazer in your field.
That whole fucking band is talented.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they are.
So you said he's not. Who is your favorite drummer?
That would depend on style. I have a lot of favorite drummers.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, it was all about Danny Carey and Travis Barker.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it's 2 opposite sides of the spectrum of drumming and stuff. But with social media, you know, you can see a lot of different drummers around, and, you know, you can get you just get a better feel of how many different amazing drummers. But I would say Mario from Gojira.
I've seen them one time.
That dude's so good that like certain metal drummers like Lorna Shore. Lorna Shore is getting really popular, you know, like, or they are really popular, right? Their drummer is sick, like such a great like speed drummer. His favorite drummer is Mario because like he's that good. Like he's so tight and so talented, and everything he does is perfect. And it's just he's ridiculous.
Yeah. Was there a drummer is that why you played drums, because of Tool?
No. I discovered Tool after I started playing drums. Honestly, man, like I didn't realize it at the time, but I look back and my life is kind of based in patterns. So like I like drums because I like patterns. I can't not tap my foot or like make a pattern out of something. And then I got into tattooing, and surprised I do patterns. It's just kind of I'm just kind of drawn to it. So like, or even do like some of the murals that I've done downtown, patterns. Like it's just I don't know, it's a thing.
I'm sure there's more. Well, actually, I've seen two of the murals that you did downtown, and they're both right around the one on Franklin that's up high.
The little moon mandala.
Yeah, and then the one that's on what street? The one down the street from the bus station down that.
Yeah. I don't even remember what street that was. There. That was a last minute. Like the owner of the building just needed us to throw something up so we could.
So that wasn't you just like.
No. That was literally he contacted me because he had plywood in the windows and he hadn't replaced the windows yet, and the city told him, we're going to fine you because you can't have plywood windows in a historic downtown district. And he was like, if they're painted, is that art? And they were like, yeah, technically. And it's just like, oh, dope. So I had like it was me and Kara, and we had about 36 hours, and we just like threw up a little quick 2 fucking panel mural on there, and then they couldn't tell them to take it down. So that's where that one came from.
Cool. Let me see what else I got to ask you before we get done here. I didn't realize what time it is. Because I know you're a busy guy and whatnot. Do you have a favorite movie?
Not really. I don't like, to be honest, like I'll watch movies and stuff like that, but I'm not the movie format, especially now when you can go so much further with a series, I tend to be more into certain series, but it's not to say I don't like movies, but I don't really have one that I'm like, this is the one. If I had to pick one, it would be the A24 Northman.
That's one.
That one. Yeah, that would be up there just because like it's so goddamn good.
But A24 has been putting out a lot of great movies, actually.
Yep. Just went and saw the Civil War one.
That was fucking good. I've seen it twice now. And, I really enjoyed it. My buddy Rob, he was like, you gotta check this out. So he sent me it, and I was like, I watched it, and I was like, watch it again.
Yeah, I love everything. Like the things that A24 puts out that sets it apart is there seems to be no regurgitation. Yeah. It just seems like, well, if you're going to see a movie made by this company, then it's not gonna be you're just going to watch a generic movie. Something's gonna stand out. So I do like those.
I didn't realize until a couple weeks back that they did Spring Breakers.
Did they?
Yeah, that was one of their earlier movies. Like,
crazy.
I went back and looked
about
at
the early days, man. Like, that's funny.
Because that movie was horrible, but I did watch it a couple different times, but
Yeah, I don't know. Like when it comes to, I have so little time to sit and watch shit. But do you know actually what I spend the most time watching?
What's that?
Kill Tony.
Did you watch it the other night?
Yeah. I watch so much Kill Tony because I love roasts and I love shit talking, and it's hilarious because you get really good comedy and then you get people just bombing and sucking, and then
I love Kill Tony.
Like that's probably the show I watch most regularly, just for time and stuff like that. But
yeah, I just started watching I started watching Kill Tony probably about 2 years ago, but I've gone back and started watching like old ass episodes.
Yeah,
and shit.
You do the deep dive.
I just can't believe what he's done for comedy in the last 10 years.
Man, it's crazy. And like coming out of the whole everyone's afraid to be offensive thing, and then now you have Tony Hinchcliffe leading the way. Great. Man, I love it. I'm just like, bro, if you were a church, I would give you money. Like, just keep doing what you're doing.
I watched the whole segment he did. Well, I watched it live, but his part at the Brady roast was my God, fucking great. And then he talks about this on another podcast. Yes. He had talked about, they weren't going to let me do it. And then I was like, but when
I saw that live, literally, I was watching that and I stopped and said, that is the most pro level. Like,
he's good.
He's so good at it, and he's so calm about it. And what's great about anything anybody's really good at, they make it look so easy. Like, there's like nothing really goes into it, and you don't realize how fucking hard that is to actually do, to not only write that, but to be able to deliver it live on Netflix in front of that whole room of people.
Yep.
And look that seamless with it, and
when he's walking, he's just spitting out riffs on everybody.
My God, the Liver King line is just oh my God, man, he's a genius. Yeah. Like, I really do like him.
I mean, look, he's selling out the Kia Forum, he's selling out Madison Square Garden, like he's selling out these big venues for a roast show,
right?
You know,
people like. If you get on that show, you can go from zero to the top echelons of comedy. You know, like, music is not like that.
No,
fucking at all.
I watched the Kill Tony episode one time, and I forgot. I can't remember who it was actually, but I looked them up right after they were done, and I saw how many followers they had on Instagram. Right. At the end of Kill Tony, I looked at it, and it already doubled. Just because people people get into, they're like, oh, he's gonna be a regular now. Let me fart, and then they're like,
love it, dude.
So
I love seeing organic success like that just comes from people just liking what you put out into the world. It's not fed to you by AT&T or whatever. It's just kind of like, no, it's really good. It's organic. It was started in the Comedy Store, tiny as hell for nobody, and now it's like.
And now Joe Rogan moved it all to Austin.
Yeah, to Austin.
And now that club is just as big. I wish I would have seen Tony when he was here in April for Nashville Comedy Fest, because that whole week, you name that comedian, they were in Nashville that week for Nashville Comedy Fest.
I bet. Yeah.
Because they all had venues that didn't even do comedy was doing comedy because they had so many fucking people in town, Right. I wanted Andrew Schultz. I like him. He was pretty cool.
Yeah, Andrew Schultz is hilarious. Yeah. Man, there's so many from that group. Mark Norman.
Oh, Mark Norman, yeah.
Shane Gillis.
He gets fired from SNL. And
my God, I love it.
Then he's selling out.
I love it.
They're like, oh, come back. And then he just fucking destroys them.
I love it.
They probably were like, why the fuck did we bring him back?
Yeah. Well, that's what you get for digging in and trying to find fucking something to cancel people over that no one gives a fuck about except the people that cancel people.
Guess what? Comedy is meant to be funny, and if you take offense to it, then don't fucking watch it.
I mean, the thing is, even in the history of like where what comedy is started as the jester who would talk shit to the king, exactly. And he was allowed to because it gave the king a new perspective, and he was allowed to poke fun because the king would find holes and no one else will say shit to him, so this guy will find holes in his game. And it's like, so we're more sensitive than the kings that going on like hundreds of years ago that would behead people for this. Like we're more sensitive than that now. Okay, cool. But yeah, it's good to see it kind of going back to its more offensive roots. I feel like that's always better.
And think about the roasting thing. That's been around since it's been around since that, but as far as like this whole comedy roast, that shit's been out since like the 50s and 60s and shit.
Right.
Some of the legends out there that were doing it.
Yeah, they were doing that shit, and they were highly offensive with it when they were doing it, and then it got very nerfed, and then
it's so funny how Kill Tony and even Tony Hinchcliffe himself, he was still under the radar until recently, but I would love to sit in on a Kill Tony show.
Man, yeah, I would absolutely love that. And like, I have this thing where I can't, I just want to try everything. There's not a part of me that I'm like, I should be a stand-up comedian at all. Like, not even a little bit.
But you would do it.
But I have this side of me where I'm like, but why would I not? Because I like to dive into a craft and go, not for my success, but just to appreciate more the people who do this well. I want to go fail miserably at this, and then so I can just appreciate it that much more when people are really good at it. Because I think a lot of people think things are far easier than they are, and it's not a coincidence that it took years and years of practice for this one person to get good, like 1 minute
is a long fucking time.
That's a long fucking time when you're like, no, start from nothing, make these people laugh, and so I don't know if I ever saw a Kill Tony, I don't know that I would put my name in the bucket, but there is that side of me that when I'm watching it, I'm like, what would I do? And I'm like, I would fail is what I would do, but I don't know. I would just,
Because they love it when you fail.
yeah, that, and I don't, did you ever see that ASAP Rocky quote when he's like, suck a dick. Since when did it become not cool to try? Like, you're gonna hate on me because I'm trying something. Why is it not cool to try? You know? And I've always really liked that because I'm like, it was like with the DJ thing, yep, everybody was a DJ there for a while, and we had some fun, and it was dope. But that one time I tried tattooing too, and then built a career on it. So it's like, shit, I like trying new shit.
Well, Tim, where can everybody find you online?
So my Instagram is at allfather_design. And that's pretty much where I post most of my stuff. As far as for tattooing and whatnot, I tend to, if there's a way that I slack, it is social media, because I have to have an Instagram, and I do, and it's there, and it's what it's supposed to be, and you can definitely book with me. But that is on my short list of things to get much better about and kind of expand on. I have been very lucky that I stay relatively busy as it is now, and I don't like, Instagram's been great to me, so I hate Facebook, and I don't know, I definitely need to get better at the social media side, but find me on Instagram. And then other than that, I would say it's probably going to be maybe within the next 6 months I'll have more shit up, but it'll all be linked on there. So
cool. Well, Tim, this was fun, man.
Man.
I appreciate you taking time of your day to come do this.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
All right, brother.